Sister, can Hihi really not come along? Hihi will be super well behaved, please take me with you, okay? A 6-year-old child tugged at the finely dressed girl, begging in a wheedling tone. All right, Xiaohe. Sister is going shopping with her friends. Don't you hate walking more than anything? Be good and stay home. Mom will play with you, okay? A woman, still strikingly beautiful despite being middle-aged, gently tried to pull the little child away. Xinjiarao took the chance to free herself from the little girl's grip and hurried toward the front door. As she ran, she called out brightly to the beautiful woman, Mom, I'm leaving now. Take care, Rao Rao. I've sent you some money. Are you coming home for dinner tonight? No. Zhang Shui and I are having hot pot out. The heavy door clicked shut in front of the three of them. Darkness swallowed Xinjiarao. She had been trapped beneath the rubble for a very long time. There was neither food nor water. Blood oozed steadily from a gash on her forehead. Her lips were pale, and her eyes widened in raw terror. She had no idea if she would ever be rescued. The earthquake had struck without warning. Though she always kept earthquake alerts switched on, she had never received any notification. By the time the ground began to shake violently, it was already too late. Panicked, Xinjiarao scanned her surroundings. Barely an adult, she could do nothing but give in to fear amid the sudden catastrophe. Screams of terror echoed from high-rise buildings all around her. Instinctively, she ran along with the crowd, trying to flee. Her mind moved sluggishly. Were other people also denied earthquake warnings? Nearby cries jolted her muddled senses back to sharp awareness. A huge crack had opened up on the ground right in front of her. Some people fleeing failed to notice it, others saw it yet could not stop in time and tumbled into the chasm under inertia. A man holding his daughter reacted instantly. He stretched out his hand to catch someone falling, yet lost his balance and was dragged down into the crevice. As he fell, the small child beside him reached out desperately for him. Daddy. Little girl, don't. Seeing the child about to plunge down, Xinjiarao lunged forward and seized her wrist. Other passers-by also grabbed hold. Several people worked together to haul them back. Run. The buildings are collapsing. Wah. Help. I don't want to die. Mommy. Mommy, I'm scared. The earth shook ferociously. Cracks spread across the walls of tall buildings. Screams, sobs, and shouts filled the whole district. Xinjiarao had joined others in rescuing survivors, yet buildings above swayed on the brink of collapse. The little girl in her grasp clung tightly to her hand. Her father had fallen while trying to save a stranger moments earlier. All of a sudden, the little girl struggled wildly to break free. Wah, I want daddy. I want daddy. Before Xinjiarao could steady her hold, the child slipped and tipped toward the crack. Raised to never turn a blind eye to someone in mortal danger, Xinjiarao reached out and caught her hand again. Terrified, the little girl burst into tears and clung on for dear life. Xinjiarao glanced upward at the teetering building. Her strength was almost gone. The little girl's foot had become wedged in debris, and she could not pull her up alone. Just then, another hand closed around the girl's free wrist. Stop zoning out. Pull your little sister up right now. A young woman's voice rang out, sharp with urgency. Xinjiarao snapped back to reality. She cooperated with the woman and heaved the little girl safely onto solid ground. Before the woman could finish speaking, Xinjiarao pushed the sobbing child into her arms and turned to run toward home. That woman's words had jolted her awake. She had to find her mother, her father, and her little sister. Hey, wait. What about your sister? The woman reacted quickly, grabbing the weeping girl and sprinting after her. Xinjiarao knew her conduct seemed heartless. The girl was a complete stranger. Her parents had taught her to help others, yet also told her to prioritize her own safety in life or death situations. If that woman had not appeared out of nowhere, Xinjiarao would have had no choice but to let go of the little girl. Slow down. Don't run so fast. The woman kept chasing after her. Xinjiarao ran as fast as she could. Her body was drained, yet thoughts of her family drove her onward. Tears streamed down her face. People rushed past, fleeing for their lives or frantically calling loved ones. A thought struck Xinjiarao. Phones. She could call them. Fumbling, she pulled out her phone and dialed her mother's number. The line rang and rang with no answer. She kept running while the call connected. No reply. She dialed again and again. Every attempt ended with voicemail. Chunks of wall collapsed all around her. She dodged nimbly, consumed by one single thought. She had to find her family, even if it cost her life. She had no energy left to pay attention to the shouts behind her. Thud. She tripped and fell. She scrambled back to her feet at once. Her legs felt numb, yet her hand still squeezed tightly onto her unresponsive phone. Please answer, Mom. Shinjaro dodged a flying boulder, eyes blurred with tears. She dialed her father instead. Again, there was no answer. She stopped wasting time on calls. Brushing tears away roughly with the back of her hand, she kept running toward home. She had experienced minor earthquake drills at school, none strong enough to require running for safety. Nothing had prepared her for this. Buildings crashing down, the ground splitting open, scenes she had only seen in disaster movies. Her house was well prepared for earthquakes. Even so, dread gnawed relentlessly at her heart. Logically, she ought to wait until the shaking subsided before searching for her family, but overwhelming anxiety refused to let her stand still. A slab of concrete hurtled toward her. She dodged it, yet exhaustion slowed her reaction. Heavy debris smashed into her foot. Agony washed over her, blurring her vision. Shinjaro collapsed to the ground. Another massive section of wall broke loose and plummeted straight for her. Shouts and weeping all around seemed to fade away. Her eyes locked onto the falling wreckage. Instinct made her thrash, trying to yank her foot free from under heavy rubble. It would not move. Blood trickled out beneath the stone. More debris descended rapidly from overhead. Shinjaro believed for certain that she was going to die. Against all odds, the enormous slab landed beside her on the rubble to her left. It crushed her already narrow space to breathe, yet did not strike her directly. The violent impact knocked her unconscious. When Shinjaro regained consciousness, everything was pitch black. She could no longer feel her injuries. With difficulty, she fumbled for the phone she still clutched. 46% battery remained. The clock read 1 o'clock in the early hours. Many hours after the earthquake had begun, there was one missed call from her father. Only one hand could move. She tapped the voicemail. Her father's familiar voice echoed from the speaker. Tears burst forth uncontrollably. Daughter, I cannot get through to any of you. I don't think I will make it home. Be strong, my eldest girl. The earthquake hit where I am. Don't be afraid. I took out insurance, and the beneficiaries are you, Mom, and your little sister. I'm so sorry, baby. I cannot stay with you until the end. Tears rolled down in hot, heavy drops. Shinjaro gasped for air. Sorrow squeezed her heart. Her mind went blank. Thud, thud, thud. Somewhere far above came banging sounds mixed with many voices. At first, she thought she was imagining it. Is anyone down there? A loud shout cut through the darkness. Shinjaro blinked. Real people? Her father was gone. But her mother and her little sister might still be alive. Summoning every ounce of strength, she opened the music player and turned the volume all the way up. Her villa neighborhood followed solid earthquake-resistant standards. There were no towering skyscrapers nearby. She had to hold on. Someone's alive down here. This person is not deeply buried. Keep digging, everyone. Thin streaks of light filtered down. Shinjaro winced against the brightness after so long in total darkness. Can you stay awake? Don't fall asleep. Her rescuers included armed police, firefighters, and ordinary civilians. All were dust-covered and marked with wounds. Quick! Another survivor found. Someone lifted her up. Shinjaro's leg had stopped bleeding, yet she could feel nothing below the injury. She glanced weakly around. There were no doctors and no emergency medical supplies. Survivors pulled from the rubble had nothing to shield themselves against the cold. They set her down on open ground. Voices drifted through the air. Comrade, my injuries are light. Let me help rescue others. The rescuer who had carried her glanced over, his tone heavy. Very well. Only the desperate shortage of manpower drove injured people to join search and rescue work. Local army troops took charge. They had reacted the instant the disaster struck. Still, no amount of speed could make up for how sudden the catastrophe was. Many lives had been lost. Without orders from higher-ups, soldiers organized civilian volunteers and split into teams to search for survivors. At first, they assumed only one region had suffered. Once they moved outward, they saw city after city reduced to heaps of ruins. Fresh fissures kept tearing open across the ground. Countless people lay buried under debris. The magnitude of this quake easily reached level 9, the highest recorded. Unlike typical magnitude 9 earthquakes that last roughly 5 minutes, this shaking persisted for 10 full minutes. No earthquake-proof building material could withstand such prolonged violent tremors. Ground fissures added to the chaos. Most civilians knew basic emergency knowledge, yet terror robbed nearly everyone of clear-headed thought. Hospitals had collapsed completely. No outside medical teams arrived. Rescued survivors bore their injuries as best they could. Help from other provinces never came. Instead, distress messages poured in from every corner of the country. They learned that the disaster was nationwide. Every province had to fend for itself. Many ordinary citizens volunteered for rescue work. No one knew what to do with the flood of wounded survivors. News spread that earthquakes were happening all over the globe. Every region had to prioritize self-rescue. Surviving local officials were authorized to take emergency measures and do everything possible to protect local residents. Shinjarao's head spun. A long, deep gash ran along her left calf. Bleeding had slowed. She stared numbly across the landscape. Ruins stretched as far as she could see. Almost no buildings still stood upright. Scattered supplies lay about, crushed, covered in dirt and grit, salvaged from wreckage on the spot. Shinjarao counted herself lucky. She had not been buried deep, nor trapped for days. Although it was deep night, silence was nowhere to be found. Many survivors freed not long before were already joining rescue efforts. Others set off at once to look for missing family members. Every group of people worked desperately. Everyone had loved ones to worry about, so wherever survivors gathered, rescue work went on. Shinjara was no exception. She staggered to her feet. No one paid her any mind. Everyone was swamped with work. Nearby, people called out for relatives. Weeping, shouting, and banging against concrete blended together. Nobody had come looking for her. If her mother had already been rescued, she would have searched for her daughter without delay. Shinjaro headed off, following the route she remembered. No one tried to stop her. Every person was overwhelmed with their own suffering. People could only rely on themselves to stay alive. What she saw along the way was hellish. Some bodies had been pulled out from rubble. Given the crippling lack of resources, many of those bodies had still been alive only a short time earlier. Workers lacked time to retrieve the dead. Even armed police could not achieve everything. People knelt beside their deceased loved ones, wailing in grief. Shinjaro forced herself not to look too closely. The sights were unbearable. She herself was in terrible shape, coated in dust mixed with dried blood. She halted. Her calf wound had reopened and oozed fresh blood, slowing her progress. Without medicine, clean gauze, or sterile water, infection was a grave risk. Fortunately, thick winter clothes had shielded her. Without them, the injury would have been far worse. She took off her innermost soft undershirt and tore a strip to wrap tightly around her leg to stop the bleeding. Once the makeshift bandage was secured, she pressed onward. Collapsed rubble and her injured leg turned a 20-minute walk into more than an hour of painful hobbling. The beautiful home she remembered was gone, replaced by a pile of broken concrete. Shinjaro limped over to the makeshift survivor camp. She scanned every face, searching for people she knew. Nothing. Not a single familiar face. Ignoring the sharp pain in her leg, she ran toward the ruins where her house had stood. Mom. Mom. She scratched frantically at the rubble where her home used to stand. Many other people did exactly the same, digging with bare hands for their missing families, each trapped in private grief. Few rescue workers patrolled this villa district. Many houses here had been unoccupied. Rescuers prioritized other locations and would not waste time on sites with no signs of life. They had already swept this area once and heard no responses. Search and rescue dogs were no longer available. The dogs had perished in the earthquake. That was one of the strangest aspects of this catastrophe. Human monitoring systems failing might be written off as technical error, yet animals, normally so sensitive to impending danger, had given no warning at all. Without sniffer dogs, rescue efficiency dropped sharply. Workers did not stop people digging by hand, and they could not have stopped them anyway. Hopeful survivors might rouse trapped family members to call for help. Shinjaro's hands bled from scraping against jagged stone, yet she felt almost no pain. Tears streaked through dust on her cheeks. One rescue worker took pity on her and handed over a small shovel. Shinjaro strained to shift a large rock. Her grip slipped. She stumbled backward. Blood seeped through her cloth bandage once more. Dizziness washed over her, all color drained from her lips. As she fell backward, she threw out her hands to break her fall. New cuts split her palms. Her phone slipped out and clattered onto debris. She ignored the shovel held out toward her. My phone. It held her father's final message and family photos, all she had left of them. Shaking her head to fight drowsiness, she knew she could not pass out. Her mother and little sister still needed her. She retrieved her phone, It was undamaged. 36% battery remained. The rescue worker left the shovel beside her and departed. Countless others still waited for help. Staring at her phone, her foggy mind cleared for a moment. She dialed her mother's number. She leaned down over the rubble, holding her breath. Only the automated voice telling her no one could be reached. She refused to give up. Next, she dialed her little sister's smartwatch. He had set its ringtone to maximum volume not long ago. She had said that way she would never miss her sister's calls. Those words now felt bitterly ironic. Faint strains of the Maka Paka ringtone drifted up from deep beneath the wreckage. Shinjarao burst into tears, this time with flickers of hope. When the ring cut off, she redialed immediately. Once she pinpointed the source of the sound, she gripped the shovel and began to dig carefully. Every so often she redialed. The ringtone grew louder, and her hands trembled. Hope tangled with terror in her chest. What if she dug all the way down and found nothing? Even so, her shaking hands stayed steady. She needed proof, alive or dead. These were her family, and she would not abandon them. She could not tell how long she had been digging. Her hands moved mechanically, driven purely by instinct. Darkness gave way to dawn, and her phone died after repeated attempts to make calls. Every swing of her shovel was cautious. Among gravel and dust lay massive boulders. When she could not shift one, she dug around its sides. As day broke, a flash of familiar fabric came into view. It was her mother's pajamas. Shinjarao threw down the shovel at once and began scraping away dirt with her bare hands. Yet her efforts were halted. A huge rock pinned her mother's body down. A muffled sob escaped her throat. Her hands froze, and her whole body shook uncontrollably. Rescue workers, worn out after working through the night, were taking a short rest. One man walked over, saw the scene, and sighed, shaking his head faintly. They had recovered far too many bodies just like this. Given the severe shortage of resources, moving the bodies out was simply not feasible. It would waste precious time. Just as the three rescuers prepared to leave, a faint cry drifted out from beneath the body. Shinjarao went rigid. She had heard her little sister Shinjauha cry countless times, sometimes when she teased her, sometimes when the little girl cried on her own. She had always found those cries irritating. But this time, it was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. Hee, it's sister, Shinjarao tried to soothe her sister. Her voice was feeble, barely above a whisper. Quick, there's a survivor over here. Come at once. The rescuer shouted in surprise, calling his teammates over. Miss, please stay calm. Let us do our work. Shinjarao nodded through her tears. Only the thought of her sister had kept her going this long. The rescuers moved fast, yet soon realized that to free the child, the enormous rock pressing down on the mother's body had to be removed first. Exhausted after nearly 24 hours of work and shaken by the earthquake themselves, moving it proved extremely difficult. Still, they could not bear to stand by and watch a life slip away. When the rock was finally pried loose, even though Shinjarao had tried hard to brace herself for her mother's death, overwhelming grief crashed over her the moment she saw the body. It's a little girl. She is alive. No obvious external injuries. Her mother shielded her perfectly. Before the rescuer could finish speaking, Shinjarao stepped forward and lifted the little girl into her arms. She had no more tears left to shed. Sister. The child's voice was weak. Shinjarao held her tight and nodded repeatedly. Wah. Sister, I was so scared. Shinjarao broke down into quiet sobs. You have serious injuries. Go rest first. We will see what medical supplies can be salvaged, someone told her. Shinjarao staggered to her feet. Black spots swam before her eyes. Her strength gave out, and she fainted. A heart-rending wail erupted beside her. Shinjarao tried to lift her hand to comfort her sister, yet could not move a muscle before consciousness slipped away. Thankfully, she was still breathing, so rescuers did not leave her behind. When she came to, she was lying on a crude wooden cot inside a tent. Beside her lay a small, dirt-stained figure. The moment Shinjarao stirred, Shinjauha woke. Sister, Shinjauha stared anxiously at her. Where's mother? Shinjarao propped herself up, her voice hoarse and weak. She glanced quickly around. They were inside a tattered, cramped tent. 3 other people lay alongside them. Some brothers carried mother outside. They won't let her come in. Sister, has mother abandoned us? Though very young, Shinjauha sensed that something terrible had happened. Sister, father won't answer my calls. Before Shinjarao could reply, the little girl's eyes welled with tears. Shinjarao looked at her innocent-eyed sister in silence for a long moment. Then she spoke in a ragged voice. Mother has not abandoned us. She is just very tired. She will sleep for a very, very long time. From now on, sister will stay with you, all right? What about father? I want mother and father. Why can't you wake mother up? Tears pooled in Shinjao's eyes. Sister cannot find father either. Shinjarao's voice trembled. Overnight, her once happy family had been torn apart. She had only just turned 18. A small warm hand closed around hers. She looked down. Her little sister stared back, frightened and lost. The sisters had always been close. Shinjarao was already 12 when Zhaohe was born. She had adored her chubby, cute baby sister from the start. Zhaohe loved her in return. Their parents' affection had never diminished after the second child was born. Shinjarao had never resented her. Even so, she often teased the little girl at home, and their parents would merely watch, smiling as they tussled. Shinjarao had believed their happy life would go on forever. Her leg wound had received basic bandaging. Bread bottles of water sat on the wooden cot. Have you eaten anything? Shinjaohe shook her head. I don't like this bread. She was simply not hungry enough yet. Shinjarao disliked it too, but she knew they could not afford to be fussy. Settling their parents' estate and assessing family losses would have to wait until the disaster eased. She had no idea then that many things would never be set right. Shinjarao pushed herself off the cot. She needed to see her mother. Grief would have to wait. Her mother's body lay out in the open. Her father had been away on a business trip when the quake struck. That city had also suffered heavy damage. Somehow she had to find out what had become of him. Her top priority was to recover her strength. She also kept wondering why relief teams from other provinces still had not arrived. Her phone was dead. She suddenly thought of Jiang Jingchen, who was in City A. Does your smartwatch still have power? Has Brother Jingchen called? Yes. He asked whether we were all right. He said you should call him back as soon as you woke up. Shinjarao took the watch. The most recent incoming call was from Aunt Jiang. The call connected almost instantly. Rao Rao. At the sound of his voice, tears she had fought hard to hold back spilled over. Jingchen. I heard from that your area was hit by an earthquake. How's your leg? What about auntie and uncle? Jiang Jingchen was her childhood friend. They had grown up side by side. After the college entrance examinations, Shinjarao had insisted that he accept his top-ranked offer rather than follow her to her preferred university. His parents had moved to live near his campus. Had the earthquake not happened, they would have returned home in 2 days. Mother and father are gone, Shinjarao sobbed. Jingchen, was there an earthquake where you are? Yes. It struck without warning. It is estimated to be magnitude 9. Are your parents all right? A long silence came over the line. Rao Rao, don't be afraid. I will find a way to get back to you as soon as I can. Stay put with and look after your injuries. Don't take unnecessary risks, do you understand? Like Shinjarao, grief weighed heavily on him, yet this was no time to give way to sorrow. This was their hometown. No matter what, he needed to bring his parents' remains home for proper burial. His call calmed Shinjarao a little. All right. I have to go. I will look for transportation. Charge the watch whenever you can so we can keep in touch. All right. Hearing her soft, tear-heavy voice softened some of Jiang Jingchen's tension. When the earthquake hit, he had been sitting his final term examinations. He had dived under the desk without hesitation. No phones were permitted in the exam hall, so he waited for rescue with no way to contact anyone. He had no idea how long he waited. Once rescued, he learned rescue resources were severely stretched. He went straight to search for his parents. Even though he had braced for bad news, seeing their bodies still shattered him. Tears solved nothing. He wiped his face and joined rescue efforts for other survivors. Rumors reached him that earthquakes had struck across many provinces. Terrified for Shinjarao, he used his mother's phone, his own had been lost, to try calling her. Her phone was switched off. At first he felt numb, then panic. He rang her parents, too, but got no answer. He sank into utter despair. He kept hoping against hope and dialed Shinjaohe's smartwatch. When the call went through, relief washed over him. His numb heart stirred to life again. After hanging up, Shinjarao felt a flicker of new resolve. Shall we go see mother? Yes. Shinjaohe nodded hard. Sister, let me help you walk. Shinjarao stroked her little sister's hair and accepted the offer. No one had disturbed their mother's body. She lay on her back among scattered rubble. Her face was unmarked, covered only with dirt. Dragging her injured leg, Shinjarao hobbled over. She did not weep. She sat beside her mother and gently lifted her head onto her lap. Using the inner lining of her sleeve, she carefully wiped dirt off her mother's face. The dry fabric gradually grew damp with her silent tears. At last the face was clean. Her mother's expression was peaceful, as though she had suffered little pain. "Mother, I did well today. I used my phone to work out where you and Hihi were buried." Shinjaro chattered softly, just as she would have on any ordinary peaceful day. "Mother, I have only just turned 18. How can I?" She fought desperately to hold back sobs. Her throat burned. "How can I be an orphan?" Shinjaha sat down beside them. She felt hungry, yet refused to touch the dry, unpleasant-tasting bread. Too young to fully grasp the meaning of death, she sensed that something was wrong without truly understanding what it meant. She watched her sister hold their mother, then reached out and hugged one of their mother's hands. "Sister, will mother get better once we take her to hospital?" Shinjaro gave no reply. She simply held her mother's body, which was already beginning to stiffen. There would be no more mother. Receiving no answer, Shinjaha was not upset. She had kept watch beside her sister for nearly a full day and was exhausted. Leaning against Shinjaro and their mother, she drifted off to sleep. The disaster was far worse than Shinjaro had imagined. Several days passed. Supplies remained desperately scarce. Many people were still trapped beneath rubble. Food and drinking water were running dangerously low. Her mother's body could not wait any longer. One mild afternoon, Shinjaro carried her mother's stiff body on her back and held Shinjaha's hand. The little girl had grown prone to tantrums from constant hunger and walked toward a spot that had escaped total destruction. "Hihi, wait here for me. I need to find something." This place had once been her and Jiang Jingchen's secret hideout. Long ago they had buried an iron box here containing a smaller case filled with notes where they had written down their childhood wishes. Young Shinjaro could never have guessed that those boxes would one day be used to cremate her mother's remains. She had never done anything like this before. Even after thinking through every possible risk, burns marked her skin from stray flames during the process. Bone fragments that would not burn completely stayed inside the iron box, which she buried once more. She slipped the old wish notes, a small bow and a tiny bow tie from the little case into her pocket. The ashes weighed almost nothing in her hands, yet felt unbearably heavy. Her hands shook. Weak with hunger, Shinjaha had fallen asleep beside the burial site. Shinjaro did not wake her while performing the cremation. Only when everything was finished did she rouse the drowsy child. "Sister, where is mother?" Shinjaha blinked, confused not to see their mother beside her. "Mother woke up and traveled far away. She told me to look after you and told you to listen to me." "Mother woke up? Why didn't you wake me? She hasn't spoken to me for so long." Shinjawa pouted, pulled her hand free, and stamped her feet. "Mean sister." Shinjaro paid no mind to the childish fit. After a while, realizing her sister was not going to comfort her, Shinjawa slowed her steps and stole glances backward. She saw tears streaming down Shinjaro's face and hurried back to clasp her hand. "I'm sorry, I won't be cross anymore. Please don't cry, sister. When will mother come back? It is not fair of her to leave without saying goodbye. When she returns, I will be cross with her. Sister, please stop crying." Shinjaha tilted her head and spoke softly. "Hihi, you must obey sister from now on, all right?" "I promise." Survivors were relocated to a little-known underground shelter built like an underground fortress. It had also sustained earthquake damage, yet offered far better protection than the surface. Every day, teams of soldiers and volunteers went out to search for survivors trapped in ruins. Just as people began hoping conditions would slowly improve, misfortune struck again. One ordinary day of search and rescue work, rain began to fall. At first it was light. Soon it poured relentlessly, showing no sign of stopping. Although survivors lived underground, the facility had never been designed for long-term habitation. Many systems were incomplete. Rain soaked the soil, steadily eroding the underground refuge. The military told everyone plainly they had to move back above ground. The bunker would soon flood. People gathered their belongings and evacuated. Shinjaro and Shinjaha moved with the crowd. They had managed to contact Jiang Jingchen while the rain was still light. Once moisture destroyed circuits, charging became impossible and all communication cut off. The last they knew, he had just set out from City A. Roads were buried under rubble. No vehicles could pass, travel was only on foot. Back above ground, floodwater reached thigh deep. Soldiers gathered boats that had survived intact. Holding Shinjiao tight, Shinjiao queued to board one vessel following official instructions. But long-term hardship had frayed many people's self-control. Some survivors who had received outside information learned that earthquakes had struck multiple regions across the country. After weeks without adequate outside relief, tempers snapped. When heavy rain arrived, pent-up anger erupted. Shinjiao held her sister and picked her way over jagged rubble. Shoved by the surging crowd, she lost her footing and tumbled into the floodwater. Where are you taking us? Why has proper help never arrived? My family is still buried under the rubble. Are you just going to abandon them? I will not leave. Everything I own is here. One person shouted, and long-suppressed frustration boiled over. Survivors vented every ounce of pain accumulated since the earthquake. We understand your suffering. This is a nationwide catastrophe. We have to support one another to get through this, said a military officer. Where are the senior officials? Have they fled to safety and left you here to pacify us? Are our lives worthless? The officer fell silent. The disaster had struck without warning. It was true that some high-ranking people had secured the safest shelters immediately after rescue. Still, the military refused to abandon ordinary civilians, and new safe zone construction was being rushed ahead. His silence enraged the crowd further. Why should ordinary people have to suffer like this? We are not abandoning you. Please board the boats first so we can depart. What about the people still trapped? Why won't you save my 3-year-old son? A man's face burned red with rage. It is hard to say, but more than 2 weeks have passed. Very few people buried in rubble can survive that long. Besides, the rain is still pouring. We have to prioritize those still alive. He is right, someone in the crowd called out. Listen to instructions. That is easy for you to say. Your whole family was recovered, even the bodies were properly handled. What about mine? They're gone without a trace. To you they are just names, but to me they are people I loved every single day. Some in the crowd pleaded for calm. Others shouted in fury. Shinjiao wanted no part of the uproar. She too had lost both parents. All she had left was her little sister. Sir, she said carefully to the officer, will survivors from all other provinces also be taken to these safe zones? Such scenes, young guardians caring for small children, had become common after the earthquake. The officer nodded. Yes, everyone. May I borrow your phone? I need to send a message to a relative. We were supposed to meet here. It has very little battery left. Be quick. He handed over the device. Shinjiao typed in a familiar number, one of Jiang Jingchen's parents' numbers, which she had memorized as a child. A recorded message told her the number was switched off. Anxiety twisted inside her. She had no way of knowing what had happened in City A. She handed the phone back. A thought formed in her mind. Thank you, at that moment, fighting broke out further back in the crowd. Someone crashed into her back. Her feet stood on broken, uneven ground. Still holding Shinjiao, she lurched sideways. Splash! Everything happened in an instant. She was not the only person knocked over. Soldiers hurried forward to break up the disturbance, pulling people apart and trying to restore order. Chilly floodwater filled Shinjiao's mouth. Shinjiao gasped and swallowed mouthfuls of water. Shinjiao tried to push herself upright, yet her foot was trapped. Her partially healed leg wound split open again. Sharp pain made her wince. Gurgle, gurgle, sis, gurgle. Shinjiao's face turned bright red. Thankfully, a hand reached down from above the water to rescue them. Shinjiao knew how to swim and could still hold her breath. She quickly pushed her little sister toward that outstretched hand. Holding her breath, she ducked her head to shift the stone trapping her foot. When she finally broke through the surface, she did not notice the box she had been carrying had fallen into the water. She shook water from her hair and turned to see the girl who had saved Shinjiao patting her back to help her cough up water. Thank you so much, Shinjiao said gratefully. The girl rolled her eyes at Shinjiao. Once she saw Shinjiao surface, she hastily shoved Shinjiao into her arms, as though afraid Shinjiao would foist the child onto her if she hesitated even a second. After all, this tough-faced girl had done exactly that before. Wah, sis. He feels awful. Buried in Shinjiao's embrace, Shinjiao burst into loud sobs. Shinjiao comforted her for a long while before lifting her head to thank the girl again. Only then did she spot a timid little girl standing beside her. On closer look, the child seemed strangely familiar. Ring any bells? Noticing Shinjiao studying them, the girl let out a cold laugh. Shinjiao nodded honestly. She does look familiar, but I don't think we've met. Good heavens. Don't you remember you dumped this little girl on me? You really are hard to kill. Shinjiao blinked. Now she recalled. Right after the earthquake, she and another girl had rescued this young child. An awkward smile tugged at her lips. She had acted terribly selfish back then. The other girl had only tried to help. I'm sorry. I was desperate to look for my family. The girl only snapped at her once. She had been lucky. Though saddled with a small child, she had reached open ground and escaped being buried under rubble. She had recognized Shinjara long ago. At first, she had assumed Shinjauha was her sister. Later, she learned from the little girl that they had been total strangers and had let it go. Is this your family? She nodded toward the small child clinging tightly in Shinjarao's arms. Yes, this is my younger sister. Again, I'm sorry about before. I'm Shinjarao and this is Shinjauha. What about you? Having calmed down, Shinjauha craned her neck to stare at the stranger. When Xingqing. This little girl is Song Yidua. Soldiers were calming the rioting survivors, so boarding would take some time. Shinjarao set Shinjauha down on a large patch of rock above the floodwater. Shinjauha behaved, sitting quietly and clasping her small hands in her lap. Once the soldiers had talked the crowd into submission, Shinjarao walked over. What can I do for you? Brother Chin, where will all the survivors end up? I've received orders from my superiors. Survivors from this province are to gather in City J first. City J lay in the exact opposite direction from the path Jiang Jingchen had taken. If she left, he would have no way to find her. They had promised to meet up and travel to City T together to retrieve their father's remains. What if I skip the gathering for now and head there later? That is impossible. I cannot allow anyone to stay behind in such a dangerous place. Did you make plans with someone? Brother Chin remembered her, the woman who had borrowed his phone and then fallen into the water. Yes, we agreed to meet right here. I'm terrified he will arrive and find me gone. Everyone will be evacuated. For your safety, you need to go with the main group. No one knows when this rain will stop. High-rise buildings are gone. Once this area floods completely, there will be no rescue. Can you really wait for your loved one? Shinjarao knew he spoke the truth. Jiang Jingchen had no proper transport, and there was no telling how long he would take to arrive. Still, she knew his stubborn nature. He would not leave without seeing her alive. Brother Chen, may I borrow your phone one more time? I want to leave him a message telling him where I'm going. Jiang Jingchen was clever. He would figure out some way to charge his phone. She hoped the terrible rain was not falling everywhere across the country. After leaving the message for Jiang Jingchen, Shinjarao prepared to board. Most people had already gotten on. Countless people from the submerged city waited for evacuation. The military had pulled highest-level clearance to deploy one largely intact large vessel alongside several smaller boats. Survivors numbered many, yet still paled beside the total population of the city. Only a small fraction of people had rioted, most moved along in numb silence, still reeling from overwhelming trauma. Brother Chin was merely the squad leader overseeing this group of ordinary survivors. Shinjarao was assigned to one small boat. When Xingqing and Song Yidua boarded the same craft. Sis, I'm hungry. Shinjauha tugged at Shinjarao's hand. I know. Shinjarao reached for her lightweight shoulder bag. Her fingers closed around nothing familiar. Her heart lurched. She tore the bag wide open. Empty. Nothing was left. Shinjarao's face drained of all color. Sis? What is wrong? Jaha, stay safely on the boat. I need to go retrieve something. Her mother's ashes were gone. Under no circumstances could she abandon such a precious memento. No, I want to stay with you. Be good. Remember what I told you. Shinjauha pouted unhappily. But where will you look? Shinjarao's gaze locked onto the spot where the boats had been anchored. That was the only possible place the box could have fallen overboard. She judged the distance. It was not far. She was a strong swimmer. If she hurried, she believed she could catch up, for the boat moved slowly. Over there. I will be right back. Don't be afraid. She stroked her sister's head. She could not afford to waste another second, or the distance would grow greater. Are you crazy? What possession could possibly matter more than your own life? When Xingqing grabbed her arm, Shinjarao pried her hand free. I am not crazy. This means everything to me. Without further hesitation, she jumped into the water. Though this spot sat slightly higher, the water level remained dangerously high. Her leg wound, which had only just stopped bleeding, split open again, fresh blood seeping out as she moved. Shinjauha scrambled to the boat's railing, ready to leap in after her sister. When Xingqing grabbed her firmly, commotion broke out on deck. What is going on? Why did that woman jump? This is utter recklessness. She lost something important and went to get it back. Rain intensified, hammering the water into sheets of white spray. Shinjarao's figure shrank small against the downpour. Again her. Why must she keep causing trouble? Has she no sense of teamwork? What thing could outweigh staying alive? Captain, should we stop the boat? Soldiers aboard the main large ship had also noticed the incident. Captain Chen quickly submitted a request to halt and wait. From the top deck, an officer stared toward the faint speck vanishing behind sheets of rain and frowned. Keep moving forward. Captain Chen could not disobey military orders. Dozens of ordinary civilians depended on this vessel. The rain suddenly intensified even more heavily. Continue sailing. Do not stop. Eyes closed, Captain Chen relayed the order. Shinjaoha grew increasingly anxious and restless. Her sister had told her to wait, yet she could barely see Shinjiao through the rain. Panic welled inside her. Mother and father were gone. Her sister was all she had left. Summoning unexpected strength, she bit hard into Wen Xingqing's restraining hand. Wen Xingqing yelped in pain and loosened her grip. Hey kid, are you out of your mind? Ignoring her, Shinjiao threw herself over the boat's edge and plunged toward the water. Hey, no! Wen Xingqing lunged to catch her. Captain Chen hurried over, leaped into the water, and seized the floundering little girl who could not swim. Just as he prepared to pass her up onto the boat, something pulled him beneath the surface and he nearly choked. In that instant, Shinjiao wriggled free of his hold. Her eyes fixed on the distant stretch of water. She knew her behavior was wrong, yet overwhelming terror threatened to swallow her. She could not bear being abandoned all over again. Captain Chen, get back aboard. Leave the child. If she wants to risk death, no one can save her. The boat could not turn around for anyone. Captain Chen had already missed the critical rescue window. He had no choice but to give up. Perhaps those two sisters simply could not be persuaded from the start. Distant commotion drifted over the water. True to her resolve, Shinjaro swam fast and found the ash box. She turned to race back toward the boat, only to discover the vessel had shrunk almost out of sight. Beneath the surface, she spotted a small figure. Shinjiao. Anger stabbed sharply through Shinjao's chest. She had told her sister to stay safely aboard. There was no time for reproach. Tucking the ash box tight against her body, she swam desperately toward the little girl. Mother, please watch over us, she prayed silently. I have already lost our parents. Please do not take my sister away too. Tears spilled from her eyes and washed away in floodwater. She caught hold of Shinjiao. When she lifted her gaze, the boat was far, far away. Perhaps this was fate. She turned her back on the disappearing ship. Her top priority now was her sister. The girl still breathed. Hope remained. Shinjiao immediately struck out for shallower water. Cold rain stung her face. Everything blurred into a vast sheet of white. The ash box pressed against her, her one source of comfort. Shinjiao's breathing grew fainter and fainter. Shinjiao floated helplessly on the surface. Was this really how everything would end? Ding. System activated. A voice echoed directly inside her head. Shinjiao froze. Who are you? Her voice trembled. Shivering racked her body. It was winter, and prolonged immersion in frigid water drained her strength rapidly. Greetings, host. I am Housing Selection System Unit 001. Housing Selection System? Shinjiao stared in bewilderment. Had the rain addled her brain? Systems only existed in novels. Host's vital signs are dropping rapidly. Do you wish to bind to the system? A panel materialized in her mind with two options, yes and no. She glanced down at the unconscious little girl in her arms. Whatever the system was, their situation could hardly grow worse. She mentally selected yes. Congratulations on successful binding. As a welcome benefit for new hosts, a high-quality dwelling is unlocked for your first housing draw. The water ahead rippled as though a tiny seed had fallen onto its surface. In the blink of an eye, the seed transformed into a small cottage shaped like a lantern. It stood steadily atop the churning floodwaters, completely untouched by pouring rain. Shinjiao wasted no time. She lifted Shinjiao onto its low entrance step, set down the ash box, and hauled herself up by the handrails. She pushed open the door. Without pausing to marvel at her surroundings, she laid her sister onto the floor and began performing rescue compressions. Only after Shinjiao coughed up floodwater and started crying did Shinjiao slump onto the ground, completely exhausted. Sis. The weak-sounding child thought she was dreaming. Shinjiao wiped rain and tears off her face. She stripped off their soaked clothes, tucked Xinjiaohe onto the lower bunk of a warm wooden double-sided bed, and covered her with soft blankets. Only then could she look properly around the cottage. Finished in warm log cabin style, the space felt wonderfully cozy. Beside the bed sat 2 huge servings, tomato beef cheese egg bibimbap, and a rich pot of borscht, still steaming hot. Will this food disappear once eaten? She swallowed hard. For more than 2 weeks she had eaten no hot-cooked meals, and hunger gnawed fiercely at her insides. Food refreshes automatically every day. Menus change daily. This cottage is part of your new user gift pack, so you need not worry about supplies for the next 3 days. Xinjiao processed the information. I can only stay 3 days in this house? Correct. Each selected dwelling grants a 3-day stay. After 3 days, the housing selection cycle restarts. Dwellings vary greatly in quality. You may draw blindly or complete missions to obtain clues for better housing options. How bad can bad dwellings be? You will find out upon drawing. System cannot elaborate. Is there a points exchange mall? Indeed there is. However, you are only level 1 right now. Basic housing selection functions are unlocked. Complete missions to earn points for upgrades. Once upgraded, you may unlock the points mall. Earlier you said missions give clues for housing draws. You may spend points earned from missions either to buy housing hints or save points to level up the system and unlock them all. How many points per mission? How many points for an upgrade? At which level does the points mall open? Points awarded depend on mission performance. 100 points are required per system upgrade. The points mall unlocks at level 30. Sis, I'm cold. Curled under blankets, Xinjiaohe shivered. Xinjiao touched her forehead and her palms. No obvious fever heat. She pressed her own forehead against the girl's, still detecting no abnormal temperature, yet her own head spun with dizziness. Ding. New mission released. Mission. Within 12 hours, restore your body temperature and the child's to normal levels. Reward. 10 points upon completion. Xinjiao realized the truth. Xinjiaohe was not fever-free, both of them ran a fever. There was no medicine inside the cottage, yet unlimited hot water was available. They possessed no dry spare clothes, only soft plush throw blankets draped over sunken sofas circling the central table. Starvation came first. Even feverish, hunger overwhelmed her. Her legs felt weak. She practically collapsed onto the soft circular sofa, grabbed a spoon, and took a big mouthful of warm rice. Warm, smooth, and satisfying, it felt like divine relief. Once full, she recovered enough strength to tend to her sister and tackle the mission. The task seemed surprisingly straightforward, and it prioritized their physical well-being. She pushed the fleeting thought aside. Simple missions were a blessing. Whatever hardships lay ahead, at least she and her sister would not starve. A private restroom was built in. She fetched hot water and began physical cooling measures. When Xinjiaohe was little, fevers were frequent, and their mother had always nursed her in exactly this way when medicine was given. Without fever-reducing pills, they could only rely on their bodies to fight the illness. She sponged her sister's key body areas, then tended to herself. By some stroke of fortune, neither's condition turned critical. Late that night, Xinjiaohe started complaining loudly, full of energy again. Relief washed over Xinjiao, quickly followed by sharp anger. Xinjiaohe, what did I tell you? I told you to stay safely on the boat and wait. Why did you disobey? A sharp slap landed lightly on her sister's bottom. Xinjiaohe covered the spot with small hands, tears welling but not falling. I wanted my sister. Mom and Dad don't want me anymore. You are all I have. Her small voice shook with sobs. Xinjiao lifted her hand, unable to strike a second time. Tears rolled down her cheeks. You scared me half to death. If luck had not saved us, we would both be dead. The little girl scrambled over and snuggled against her. I'm sorry, sis. Xinjiao wrapped a blanket firmly around her and pulled her onto the sofa. Eat something first. Wow. Sis, it's that tasty rice bowl. Where did you get this? Having gone far too long without decent food, Xinjiao's big eyes sparkled, saliva dripping down her chin. Do not worry about that. Just remember I will never let you go hungry again. Sis, have you eaten? I already ate. Hurry and eat yours. Xinjiaohe picked up her spoon and began eating hungrily. Xinjiao stood and explored the cottage. A huge floor-to-ceiling window looked out onto unrelenting heavy rain. The floodwater level kept climbing, yet it never touched the cottage at all. Here they felt completely safe, sealed off from the apocalyptic world outside. System, this cottage stands out so obviously. Can other people see it? Yes, they can. But every surviving resident of this city has been evacuated aboard those boats. No one remains nearby for you to worry about. Hee hee, keep eating. I'm going to take a bath. Don't run outside, all right? He knows. Xin Zhaoao went to bathe and tended to her injured leg, which had never gotten proper care. After finishing her meal, Xin Zhaoao wandered curiously all around the small room. She wore no clothes. Spying the view beyond the French-style windows, she opened her mouth wide in surprise and pressed her whole face against the glass. When Xin Zhaoao stepped out of the bathroom, Xin Zhaoao was sitting bare-bodied on the floor, gazing excitedly out at the scenery. With no clean clothes available, Xin Zhaoao wrapped a sofa throw around herself. Built-in heating kept the room comfortably warm. Hee, have you finished eating? He couldn't finish the rest. This was the first time in half a month that Xin Zhaoao had eaten her fill. She patted her round, full tummy contentedly. All right, go take a bath. You can wash by yourself, can't you? Yes, he is very good at it. Seeing the little girl's proud look, Xin Zhaoao gave her bottom a light, playful nudge with her foot. Don't get cocky. Hurry up and wash. You've been sitting in dirty water for ages. You smell awful. No, he doesn't stink. Xin Zhaoao pouted indignantly. Yet the second Xin Zhaoao turned away, she lifted her small hand and sniffed it. She did smell a little bad. Mean sister. Unable to stand it, the hygiene-conscious child scrambled to her feet and darted into the bathroom. Ding! Congratulations, host. Mission completed. 10 points have been credited to your account. How many points do I need for a clue to the next cabin? 10 points. Can't you give me a discount? Apologies, host. Those are the rules. Very well. I'll think about it. I still have more than 2 days left. Xin Zhaoao lay back on the sofa and sighed. Suddenly an idea struck her, and she shot upright. The messages. She had sent Jiang Jingchen a message earlier, thinking she would be rescued. He must have gone looking for her. But how is she supposed to get out of here now? Staring out at the heavy rain, she scratched her head anxiously. Unknown to her, Jiang Jingchen was also caught in the downpour elsewhere. His phone was dead. Still, he thought it might not be entirely bad. Together with 4 fellow students, he had built 2 simple boats. Instead of following the military convoy, they had set off on their own. All 4 were local boys and girls. When they learned Jiang Jingchen intended to head back, they decided to come along. They had lost contact with their families. They just wanted to find them, for closure whether they were alive or dead. So the 5 of them set off together, drifting along. Half a month into their journey, torrential rain began to pour. Sensing trouble, Jiang Jingchen guided the group to a collapsed woodland nearby. Working together, they built a rough raft and rigged a leaf canopy for shelter. Jiang, thank goodness for you. We would have drowned otherwise. Exactly. You saw the bad weather coming and acted fast to build boats. They praised him, yet Jiang Jingchen only stroked his dead phone in silence. He wondered how Zhaoao was doing. Shaking his head at their compliments, he said, "We couldn't have built these boats without all of you." Jiang Jingchen, do you have family in City C? A girl leaned in toward him. Jiang Jingchen subtly shifted away to avoid her closeness. Not family. A girl I haven't won over yet, my future girlfriend. A faint smile crept onto his face as he spoke of Xin Zhaoao, without him noticing. The others leaned over, curious. She must be amazing for you to travel so far through this disaster to find her. I never thought someone as handsome as you still hadn't confessed successfully. They chattered excitedly. No one noticed that Li Qingyu, the girl who had asked the question first, paled. She is outstanding. I will win her over sooner or later. Tell us your story. You would brave weather like this for her. We grew up together, childhood friends. That sounds so romantic. Stuff you only read in novels. When we were little, she always looked out for me. I was quiet and kept to myself. When others bullied me, she would stand up and drive them off. When talking about the girl he liked, Jiang Jingchen talked more freely. She was my hero. All right, stop showing off. We're all single here, don't make us jealous. Why can't I have a childhood friend like that? Being a good childhood friend takes qualities. Look at Jiang Jingchen, that's how it's done. You'd just be some random neighbor boy. Yiningxi laughed. Li Qingyu, who had started the conversation, stayed quiet. Nobody paid her any mind. Laughter and makeshift hardship prevailed on their side, while Xin Zhaoyao's cabin stayed warm and quiet. Freshly bathed, clean-smelling Xin Zhaohe lay across Xin Zhaoyao's lap. One whole wall of the cabin was lined with books. With no electronics, Xin Zhaoao read to pass time. Xin Zhaohe was only a first grader and could barely read. Xin Zhaoao picked out a book with pinyin annotations for her. The little girl stumbled through stories, sounding out unfamiliar characters. Whenever she forgot a character, she turned to ask Xin Zhaoao. Huddled close, the two sisters weathered the rainy night, lonely yet not alone. Ding! New mission issued. Within 24 hours, find clean clothes for yourself and the child and get you both changed. Xin Zhaoao froze. Where on earth was she supposed to find clothes? Soldiers had already cleared everything out of the underground fortress. Earthquakes had flattened all shops. How could she complete this task? The ground was all rubble. Rain poured non-stop. Even a strong swimmer could not search underwater for long. The system gave only the mission and no extra help. Sister, how do I pronounce this? Pao, Pow, third tone. Oh. She glanced down at the little girl with no clothes on. This could not go on. System, you can see the situation. Where are we supposed to find clothes? Can you give me a hint? Ding. Mission hint. Not every location is reduced to rubble. Some shopping malls have underground warehouses. Host, good luck. The short clue gave Xin Zhaoao a glimmer of hope. Additional note, this cabin can travel across water. You do not need to stay submerged. Her eyes lit up. That was wonderful news. How do I steer it? The control wheel is beside the French-style windows. Please explore on your own. Xin Zhaoao gently moved the little girl off her lap and walked barefoot toward the windows. Though no one was nearby, she kept the throw wrapped around her body. She felt along the floor beside the windows and found a raised knob. Is this it? She asked hopefully. Yes, host. When she pressed it, a steering wheel slowly rose out of the floor. Even after watching the cabin materialize out of thin air, Xin Zhaoao was astonished. Xin Zhaohe trotted over. Sister, what is that? A steering wheel. It drives our cabin. Xin Zhaoao did not keep it a secret. Though she barely understood, Xin Zhaohe gasped dramatically, wow. You don't even know what it does. Why are you so impressed? Xin Zhaoao teased and ruffled her cheeks. Xin Zhaohe, where's the sofa throw I gave you? Why aren't you wearing it? Aren't you embarrassed? Xin Zhaohe trotted back, wrapped herself in the throw, and hurried over again. She watched Xin Zhaoao turn the wheel, and the whole cabin changed direction. Amazed, she pressed to the window and looked out. Sister, the house is moving. Yep, I'm doing this. Wow, sister, you're amazing. She showered Xin Zhaoao with praise. Pleased, Xin Zhaoao waved her hand. It's nothing much. Hee, wanna have a go? This is fun. She invited the girl without hesitation. All around stretched endless floodwater, only faint patches of green marking distant landmarks. There was nothing for her to crash into. Can he try? Xin Zhaohe pointed at herself, eyes sparkling. Sure. Come, I'll show you. The small child knelt on the floor, hugged the wheel with both hands, stuck her bottom in the air, and pushed hard with her feet. The wheel turned, and the cabin rotated slowly. Look, I'm awesome! She praised herself loudly. The two played happily with the wheel, completely forgetting their mission. Hee, turn it this way. We need to turn around. Sister, stop rushing me. Ugh, H. A soft fart sound broke the air. Xin Zhaohe instantly stood straight, face bright red, clutching her bottom. Xin Zhaoao burst out laughing. Ha ha, Xin Zhaohe. You were supposed to push with your hands, not your hips. Stop laughing. You're awful, Xin Zhaoao. Flustered, Xin Zhaohe threw herself at her, and they tussled playfully. Naturally, the little girl stood no chance. Xin Zhaoao easily pinned her down. Wah, mean sister. I'm telling Mum. You're bullying me again. Defeated, she cried out from old habit. That was how things used to go. Whenever she picked a fight and lost, she ran to their mother to complain. Go ahead, tell M, Xin Zhaoao began automatically. Then her eyes fell on the ash box sitting quietly on the table. Her words died in her throat. She had forgotten. Their mother was gone. Xin Zhaohe also suddenly remembered that their mother was nowhere to be seen. Sister, I'm sorry. Don't hurt me. Quick-witted, she immediately surrendered. Just you wait, she thought. When Mum comes back, I will complain properly about how mean sister is. For now, she knew better than to keep fighting. Losing to her sister was no shame. Xin Zhaoao loosened her hold. Fine, I won't tease you anymore. We need to find clothes. I hate going around with so little covering myself. It makes me feel exposed and unsafe. She looked away from the ash box and turned back to the wheel. Xin Zhaohe studied her face. Sister, are you sad? I was the one getting teased. Or are you feeling sorry for Hee? Promise not to bully me so much next time. I'll tease you less, Xinjiao replied. Xinjiao brightened until she heard the rest. As long as you stop asking for it. Her smile faded. I don't ask for it. You just pick on me because you're older. Xinjiao ignored her. Silence settled in the cabin. Before long, Xinjiao spoke again. Sister, where are we going? When will brother come for us? First we look for clothes. As for brother, I don't know. Thinking of Jiang Jingchen filled Xinjiao with melancholy. She regretted sending that message. What if he rushed over only to find her gone and had to travel all the way back? If the disaster had never happened, she would be lazing on his bed and he would be beside her bringing her fruit. Almost 8 months had passed since they parted. They had never stayed apart for so long. Xinjiao scratched her head anxiously. She wondered what state he was in, whether he was stuck in rain too. She had no idea if he was even alive. No way to contact him. She tried not to imagine the worst-case scenario. Jiang Jingchen was so capable, he had to be all right. Through the dark night, the lit cabin drifted silently over floodwaters. Nothing but the patter of rain echoed outside. Guided by the system's hint, Xinjiao located the partially damaged warehouse. Night shrouded everything. The earthquake had left countless bodies buried underwater. Fear gnawed her. She dared not dive down in darkness. She would wait until morning. That night, the two shared the upper bunk and slept soundly. Xinjiao woke close to noon the next day. She ate the fresh meal replenished automatically by the cabin, pulled on her previous dirty clothes and prepared to dive. Stay inside. Do not come after me no matter what. Promise you will wait here. She spoke gravely. I will definitely come back. I will never leave you behind, don't be afraid. I promise, sister. Please come home safely. I will. If you sneak into the water again like before, I will be very angry. If I get truly angry, I will leave you. Xinjiao had trembled. Don't leave, Then swear you will never jump into the water alone. You cannot swim. I swear. She nodded hard. Good girl. I'm going. Okay. Xinjiao opened the door. The water level had risen overnight. No treetops remained as landmarks. She locked the cabin door carefully and dove in. A strong swimmer, she moved gracefully through the water. Yet the water was murky and debris and fragments of bodies drifted past. Terror prickled over her skin even in daylight. Pull yourself together. You can do this, she told herself. Following the system's directions, she reached the warehouse location. She surfaced immediately, gasping for air. Holding her breath for so long without diving equipment had taken all her strength. After catching her breath, she dove again toward the spot blocked by heavy rubble. She strained to shift the stones. Some distance behind her, a corpse's pale finger twitched almost imperceptibly. Completely out of breath, she swam back to the cabin steps, gasping. Noise came from inside. When she unlocked the door, Xinjiao nearly tumbled out. Xinjiao caught her quickly. What are you doing? You still have no clothes on. Get inside. It's cold out here. She steered the child back inside. Finding clothes became even more urgent. They could not keep going like this. Her own clothes were thin and worn. She was used to cold after a week with no warmth in the underground fortress, yet she still felt chilled. Stop pushing me, Xinjiao protested. Xinjiao closed the door and stared out over the opaque muddy water. She dove once more. This time the rock shifted. Pressures eased, and she swam easily into the warehouse. Floodwater filled the space. All goods were soaked. It was large and well-stocked, yet nearly everything was wet. She cared little for food. The cabin supplied fresh meals, though she hoped to salvage packaged snacks. She grabbed a bag, stuffed several sets of clothing inside, then piled in as many packaged snacks as she could fit. Their sealed wrappers might keep them edible. She would throw out anything spoiled later. Beneath the wreckage, a bare pale finger twitched once more. Strapping the heavy bag to herself, Xinjiao swam back. At first she relied entirely on system navigation, but repeated trips let her memorize the route. Just before breaking the surface, something grabbed her ankle for a split second. She nearly choked on water. The pull vanished as suddenly as it had come. She swam upward at once. Clambering onto the steps, she stared at the rippling water. Something had definitely tugged her foot. It had felt exactly like a human hand. Beneath this flood lay only corpses. There were no water plants here. Horror shot through her, every hair standing on end. Ghosts? Terrified, she scrambled inside and slammed the door shut. Xinjiao looked up at her pale, shaken face. Sister, what is wrong? Ignoring the girl, Xin Zhaoao called out urgently. System. Is this cabin completely safe? Can nothing break in? The cabin opens only to the host and anyone the host chooses to admit. Nothing else can enter. The system's words instantly calmed Xin Zhaoyao's fluttering, anxious heart. She swallowed hard and peered nervously out at the water through the small window beside the cabin door. Nothing could get in. Xin Zhaoha had long grown used to her sister suddenly talking to herself about something called a system. Xin Zhaorao had already told her that their shelter and all their food came from the system. So Xin Zhaoha felt no fear toward the system her sister spoke of. Instead, it felt strangely familiar. Though, of course, she could neither see nor hear it. Ding! Mission completed. 10 points awarded. Current total, 20 points. Host, would you like to spend 10 points to unlock clues for the next cabin? This was their final night here. Tomorrow they would have to pick a new cabin. Wait a little longer, Xin Zhaorao replied. She saw no rush. They still had a full day left. Right now, her top priority was to take a hot shower and rewash all their dirty clothes. Otherwise they would have nothing wearable. Since the system had told her nothing could get inside unless she allowed it, what did she have to fear? She was perfectly safe. After a nice, steamy shower, Xin Zhaorao called Xin Zhaoha inside from where she had been messing around outside, and the two of them washed clothes together. The bathroom was small, yet just spacious enough for both sisters. Xin Zhaoha stomped energetically on the laundry. Once finished, they hung the damp garments in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. Then the two curled up on the sofa reading books, enjoying a moment of peaceful quiet. Elsewhere, Jiang Jingchen and his 4 companions were suffering terribly. They had managed to build 2 small boats, but the rain kept growing heavier. The leaf canopy they had rigged for shelter finally gave way and collapsed. We can't keep going like this. We won't even reach our destination before we collapse, one person said. Besides, supplies are getting really scarce. Yiningxiao glanced at their dwindling stock of food they had brought when setting out. No one knows when this rain will stop. I wonder what things are like in City C. Is it pouring this hard there too? The military is so frustrating. They won't release any real information, claiming they don't want to spark mass panic. Ugh, can't they see how terrified everyone already is? If they would just tell us the truth, we could make proper plans. I can't get in touch with my family at all. It's driving me crazy. This rain is downright eerie. It feels exactly like the end of the world scenarios in novels. Whatever else is happening elsewhere, right now we really are like survivors after an apocalypse. Qi Yao Xian, Hezhan Yuan, come with me down into the ruins, Jiang Jingchen said, gazing out at the murky water. The currents have shifted piles of rubble. We ought to find usable building materials. Understood. Qi Yao Xian and Hezhan Yuan answered in unison. What should we do? Yiningxiao did not want to stand idly by and quickly asked. Guard the boats. Tie this rope to the hull. We will use it to find our way back. We will also fasten ropes to ourselves. I have no idea how much visibility we will have underwater. The 3 secured their safety ropes and dove cleanly into the water. Li Qingyu and Yiningxiao stared anxiously at the surface as the 3 vanished beneath it. This water is incredibly deep, Yiningxiao murmured in awe. I wonder what they will find. I regret not sticking with the main evacuation group. Yiningxiao shot her a sharp look. Jiang Jingchen asked us 3 separate times before we set off. You swore confidently you were coming with us. I have no regrets. Once you draw the bow you cannot take back the arrow. I just want to see my parents again. Yiningxiao clutched her dead cell phone tightly. She had still been able to call her parents before her phone died. That meant they must still be safe. Li Qingyu thought of her own parents and fell silent. Visibility underwater was moderate. Pieces of mangled human debris drifted past in the current. Jiang Jingchen brushed a disembodied hand aside without flinching and scanned the riverbed. The stronger currents and increased water pressure had shifted heavy boulders that had been immovable before. Several corpses floated suspended in the water. Something was wrong. For one thing, corpses should not keep floating upright like that. Their condition also looked unnatural. Furthermore, this powerful current could move huge rocks, so there was no logical reason for this one corpse to stay perfectly upright and stationary. He tugged sharply on the safety rope. Qi Yao Xian and Hezhan Yuan turned toward him. Jiang Jingchen pointed toward the floating corpse. Qi Yao Xian spotted it too, yet thought nothing of it. He even silently scoffed, thinking Jiang Jingchen was being overly skittish to get spooked by a dead body. Hezhan Yuan, however, observed carefully and noticed the anomaly. He gestured to Jiang Jingchen that they should retreat. Jiang Jingchen nodded. Qi Yaoxian refused to leave. They had worked so hard to get here, they could not just turn back. To Jiang Jingchen and He Zhanyuan's shock, he unfastened his safety rope and swam straight down. Ignoring their silent protests, he swam right up to the corpse. He circled it. Beyond its pale, rigid flesh, there seemed nothing out of the ordinary. Cowards, he thought to himself. He even wondered whether joining this group had been a wise decision. With his back toward the corpse, he waved toward the other two. The water was murky, and he could not see the horrified expressions on their faces. Then faint ripples brushed his ears. A pale, stiff hand landed on his shoulder. Qi Yaoxian froze. Behind him there should only be the corpse. The other two were still some distance away. He was absolutely certain it had been a corpse. A second rigid hand settled onto his other shoulder. Every hair on Qi Yaoxian's body stood on end. Terror paralyzed him. His mind went completely blank. Jiang Jingchen reacted fast. Within 3 seconds he noticed that while the corpse could somehow move, it was extremely slow. Without hesitation he swam toward Qi Yaoxian and kicked hard at the corpse. Much of the force was absorbed by the water, but it pushed the creature back a short distance. He grabbed Qi Yaoxian's wrist and pulled him upward. He Zhanyuan stood frozen in shock until Jiang Jingchen bumped into him. The three swam upward for their lives. As he raced toward the surface, Jiang Jingchen glanced backward once. One glance was all he needed. He spun forward and did not look again. The corpse was indeed slow. After being kicked away, it simply hovered in place watching them flee. But disaster struck just before they broke through the water's surface. A bone-chilling sense of danger washed over Jiang Jingchen, and he swam harder. He could hear something surging upward behind him. Suddenly his ankle was seized. It was Qi Yaoxian. He had been grabbed by the pursuing corpse and in panic had clutched onto whatever was nearby, which happened to be Jiang Jingchen. Jiang Jingchen lifted his other foot and kicked at the man's hands. There was no way he could save Qi Yaoxian and himself. He had to prioritize his own survival. He Zhanyuan hauled himself onto the boat first. When he saw Jiang Jingchen still struggling in the water, his first instinct was to abandon him and escape. Yet he remembered Jiang Jingchen jolting him out of his daze moments before. What is going on? What happened? Yining Xiao and Li Qingyu stared in bewilderment as He Zhanyuan burst gasping from the water. Then they saw Jiang Jingchen, his face purple from oxygen deprivation. Without delay, the three held out makeshift oars toward him. Jiang Jingchen seized the offered oar while kicking upward. He broke through the surface, grabbed the gunwale, and pulled himself aboard. Qi Yaoxian still clung tightly to his leg, and Jiang Jingchen dragged him out of the water as well. Once on board, Jiang Jingchen gasped heavily for breath. Carrying the full weight of another adult man had drained him completely. Qi Yaoxian shook uncontrollably. When they climbed onto the boat, the corpse released its grip. Only the top of its head remained above water, staring eerily toward them. What happened? Yining Xiao hurried over to check on Qi Yaoxian. What is that? Li Qingyu shrieked all of a sudden. Everyone followed her pointing finger. All 5 of them shuddered in dread. What on earth is that? Yining Xiao involuntarily inched backward. Help! Is that a water ghost? Li Qingyu's shrill scream pierced the air, sending chills down everyone's spines. Why isn't it moving? He Zhanyuan swallowed hard. Be quiet, Jiang Jingchen snapped sharply at Li Qingyu, who kept screaming. He had recovered some of his composure. He studied the figure with only its crown above the water, its lifeless eyes fixed on them beneath the surface. Was it really a ghost? He was positive that thing could not have been a living human. The staunch materialist found himself questioning reality. Could ghosts truly exist in this world? Do not panic. It has a physical form, so we do not need to fear it, Jiang Jingchen said calmly to his terrified companions. There are 5 of us. Surely we can overpower one corpse. He Zhanyuan gritted his teeth, trying to bolster his courage. He felt compelled to keep his composure seeing how quickly the younger Jiang Jingchen had regained self-control. He was older than the rest and could not afford to lose face. Qi Yaoxian huddled trembling in a corner. His foot had been cut underwater, and blood kept seeping from the wound. Everyone's attention was fixed on the floating corpse, so nobody noticed. Li Qingyu sat slumped close beside him. No, I don't want this. What is this thing? I want to go home, Mom. Qi Yaoxian shook even harder, sobbing. While the others debated what to do, Li Qingyu glanced at the second empty boat. She had no intention of fighting that monstrous thing. She wanted to run. Maybe it cannot leave the water. Should we try rowing away? Yiningshao's voice shook as she stared at the ghastly pale shape. She had only ever seen creatures like this in horror movies. We don't have any proper weapons. They had set out expecting only heavy rainfall, bringing basic supplies and simple hand tools. Nobody had thought to bring anything designed for fighting. A blood-curdling scream rang out. Everyone spun around. Another one of those monsters had surfaced in the gap between their two boats. The scream came from Li Qingyu. "Save me. I don't want to die." None of them had ever witnessed such horror. They froze, stunned. "Quick, save her." Jiang Jingshan's shout jolted them back to reality. Though terrified, Yiningshao could not abandon a companion she had lived alongside for weeks. She held out an oar toward Li Qingyu. "Grab hold." Jiang Jingshan also extended an oar. They both tried to pull her to safety. None of them noticed the first corpse silently drifting toward their boat. Just when rescue seemed within reach, the boat lurched violently. 3 people lost their balance and fell, dropping the oars. "No!" Li Qingyu's final scream echoed, then fell silent. Meanwhile, the first corpse had crept close, its pale hands clutching the boat's edge. Jiang Jingshan spotted it first. He snatched up a wooden plank and smashed it down hard. "Row! Get us away!" Heizhan Yuan scrambled for an oar. Yiningshao sat in numb shock, staring at the spot where Li Qingyu had vanished. The plank was ineffective. Scanning frantically, Jiang Jingshan spotted their blunt wood-cutting knife in the corner. He lunged for it and hacked down at the clutching hands. The blade was dull, yet better than nothing. At last, mangled fingers tore loose. Jiang Jingshan watched the corpse drift away. Even after losing part of its hand, it floated motionless, its hollow eyes observing them through the murky water. Yiningshu was deeply traumatized. First the monster, then watching her friend dragged under right in front of her. Li Qingyu's terrified expression was burned into her mind. Jiang Jingshan had no obligation to comfort everyone else, he was shaken too. But worry for Shinjara washed over him. She had always been terrified of scary things. Every horror film they watched she had hidden her eyes, making him describe what happened afterwards. How terrified would she be if she encountered something like this? Meanwhile, the girl he feared for was curled comfortably on her sofa, wrapped in a soft blanket, enjoying a peaceful afternoon nap, full and well-fed. Monsters existed in her surroundings too, but she had only sensed faint hints of them, never coming face to face with one. Protected by the system-provided safe cabin, those creatures could not reach her. So she felt no fear. Her only complaint was the complete lack of power outlets and electronic entertainment. If she had those, life would be perfect. Shinjara disliked afternoon naps. She sat by the floor-to-ceiling window, counting raindrops as heavy rain hammered the water outside. Shinjara was not entirely free of concern for Jiang Jingshan, but exhaustion combined with the warmth and safety of her surroundings pulled her swiftly into sleep. The system stayed quiet. She woke late in the afternoon. The heavy downpour still showed no sign of stopping. She frowned. When would this rain ever end? Her phone and watch were dead. There was no way to contact anyone. She wondered how Jingshan was doing. "System, can you locate someone for me?" She remembered her special helper and asked hopefully. "Apologies, host. You do not have enough points to open the shop and purchase tracking items. Leveling up cost 100 points each time. The point shop would only unlock at level 30, which meant 3,000 total points." Shinjara stared at the 20 points displayed on her system panel. How many tasks would she need to complete to get that many? "System, are there any high-reward missions?" "There are. However, your current physical condition makes them unsuitable." Ding. 12 hours remain before the lantern cabin expires. Would you like to purchase clues for the next shelter? Shinjara stared at her meager 20-point balance. "System, how bad can the bad cabins really be?" "No further information available." "Fine." She studied the relentless rain outside. She dared not take foolish risks. If she picked a terrible shelter with no supplies, how would the two of them survive 3 days out on the flooded water? "I want to redeem the clue." Ding. 10 points deducted. Clue for next shelter unlocked. The sack cabin contains no food supplies. Shinjara waited, but the system said nothing more. "Wait. I spent 10 points and that is all the information I get. Additional clues may be purchased with more points." Only 10 points remained to her. "System, give me missions." Ding. Daily mission issued. Complete 100 push-ups. Reward, 20 points. Shinjara's eyes lit up. 20 points. Her earlier mission retrieving submerged clothes had only earned 10. "System, do I get 20 points for finishing this every single day?" Affirmative. Why didn't you give me this mission 2 days ago? I could have earned 40 more points. She felt genuine frustration over the lost opportunity. 20 points was a huge amount. How annoying, this system. Missions are assigned based on system assessment. Your physical state 2 days ago was incompatible with this task. Shinjaro pushed aside her irritation. If she finished today's mission, she would have 30 points total. But she thought about what she had just learned. The sack cabin had 0 food. If they chose it, they would need to find 3 days' worth of provisions. The thought of going into the water full of monsters filled her with revulsion. No way. She was not going to seek out unnecessary hardship. She simply would not pick the sack cabin. Food was the highest priority. Having settled her thoughts, she got ready to complete the mission. 100 push-ups sounded easy enough. She used to go to the gym with Jiang Jingchen, though he was always the one exercising, and she only watched. He could knock out 100 push-ups without breaking a sweat. Confidence filled her. Minutes later, Shinjaro lay flat on the floor, completely worn out. She had only gotten through 20 push-ups. Shinjaha trotted over, curious, looking down at her sister spread flat on the ground. Sister, are you playing? I want to play too. Shinjaro looked at her carefree younger sister, overcome with unfairness. Why did her little sister get to avoid all hard work? It was so unjust. System. Do push-ups done by my sister count? Ding. Daily mission for child issued. Complete 10 push-ups. Reward, 5 points. The system responded, seemingly picking up on her bitter frustration. Every little bit counts. That was 5 whole points. Shinjaro was definitely not jealous that her little sister got to rest. She turned to look at Shinjaha, smiling warmly like she was coaxing a small child. Hee Jaha, do you want us to have enough to eat and a nice place to stay every single day? Shinjaha nodded her little head vigorously. I really do. Then I have a task for you. If you finish it, we can keep living in good housing. Shinjawa's eyes lit up. Tell me quickly. I can do anything. Got her. Watch me. Copy this movement. Count out loud each time you finish one. Stop once you hit 10, okay? I can do it. Shinjaha said, brimming with confidence. Soon Shinjaha started dragging her feet. Sister, do I really have to do all 10? Beads of sweat dotted her forehead. Her face scrunched up, worn out and miserable. We can rest when you get tired, then keep going afterwards. You've already done 5, you're doing amazing, Shinjaro encouraged her. Fine. I'll take a break then keep going. Good. Shinjaha flopped onto the sofa. Never had lying down felt so wonderful. Shinjaro did not rest. She had to complete 100 repetitions. 100. Why had Jiang Jingchen made it look so effortless? Her arms grew heavy and shaky. She only managed 50. Half still left to go. 6 hours remained before midnight. It would be fine. She could do it. She had haggled with the system for extra time. The system had only assigned the task in the afternoon, so she was allowed to finish before 5 o'clock the next morning. Dinner tasted fantastic, and she ate far more than usual. Shinjaha, worn out from exercise, also ate a huge portion. Fresh fruit followed the meal. Looking at all that food, Shinjaro became even more certain she did not want the burlap shelter option. Under no circumstances would she go hungry. Night fell. Darkness stretched everywhere. Only their small hut glowed with warm light. Inside, the two of them huffed and puffed as they kept exercising. Rain pounded the water surface, sending droplets splashing outward. Beneath the inky night, something dark lurked beneath the waves. Shinjaro had no idea countless dark heads had surfaced just outside their floor-to-ceiling window. She had drawn all the curtains shut because nighttime filled her with oppressive dread. It gave her a small measure of safety. Shutting out the bleak view let her pretend they were not completely alone. That overwhelming sense of abandonment weighed heaviest after dark. Since she could not see what lay outside, she felt no fear. Sister, keep going. You've got this. Shinjawa had finished her task. 5 points were credited to Shinjaro's account. Shinjaro's arms trembled violently. Sweat streamed down her cheeks, yet she gritted her teeth and kept pushing. She had to finish. Compared to most people, she was incredibly fortunate. All she needed to do physical exercise to earn supplies. No harm came to her, no terrible prices needed paying. She could not give up. At last she finished. She collapsed flat onto the floor, completely drained. When the pleasant system notification chimed, informing her 20 points had been added, every hardship felt worthwhile. She spoke too soon. System, why is this house like this? Barely recovered from last night's grueling workout, Shinjaro was woken before dawn by the system. Their previous shelter's time limit had expired. They needed to select a new place to live. She was exhausted, every muscle throbbing with soreness. The system showed no mercy. Host, make your selection immediately. Once time expires, this hut will vanish and you will sink into the water. Xinjiao slapped her cheeks to wake herself up. She remembered what the system had said. The burlap shelter offered no food. Two options materialized before her, a burlap sack and a cardboard box. Knowing the sack provided no food, she picked the cardboard box without hesitation. The box flew out from the old hut and expanded above the water's surface. Xinjiao shook Xinjiao awake. The little girl was drooling in her sleep. Wake up. We're moving to a new house. Mom, I still want to sleep, Xinjiao mumbled sleepily and kicked her feet. Xinjiao gave her a light tap on the hip. Xinjiao, get up, stop dawdling. Xinjiao snapped awake, ready to throw a small tantrum, but saw her elder sister instead of their mother. All drowsiness vanished at once. She tried to stand, then slumped right back down. Sister, my legs feel all wobbly. Xinjiao smiled fondly. Her own limbs ached badly. She understood exactly what her sister meant. Your muscles are sore from exercise. Tomorrow we will work out again, and afterward I will show you how to stretch properly. We have to do it again tomorrow? Xinjiao's spirits sank. Yes. But first we need to move into our new home. Xinjiao hauled her limp little sister to her feet. She grabbed the urn, along with snacks and clothing she had retrieved from the water 2 days before. They stepped outside their old hut and onto the porch of the cardboard shelter. Heavy rain could not touch them. She pushed the door open. The sight inside left her stunned. Are you kidding me, system? Can anyone actually live here? Look at this place. Your selection is confirmed. The system cannot alter your choice. Everything inside the cardboard shelter, beds, tables, was made of cardboard. Delicious-smelling food sat waiting for them, the aroma drifting through the air. Still, the living conditions were terrible. Will this cardboard get soaked? I don't want to wake up lying in water. Rest assured, host. All shelters are structurally safe. They only differ in comfort level. Xinjiao stared at the shoddy shelter, which reminded her of flimsy kindergarten art project crafts. I don't want to stay here. The bed is hard. It isn't soft like our old one. System, Xinjiao pleaded toward empty space. No returns or exchanges after selection. Wish you a pleasant 3-day stay. Xinjiao looked around. Every single object was cardboard, save for the plentiful appetizing food. A gust blew through the window and she shivered. It offered almost no warmth. Winter had arrived. Sister, I'm cold, Xinjiao sniffled. Can we go back? This shelter lacked the warmth of their previous home. Wind seeped through gaps. The windows, bed, and table were all cardboard. Even their bedding was thick cardboard sheets. When they stepped inside, their old shelter vanished completely. Nothing we can do. Let's eat first. She had made this choice herself. She began to suspect the burlap shelter, though lacking food, might have been far sturdier. Sister, will the floor cave in? Xinjiao eyed the cardboard floor nervously. Xinjiao stamped her foot experimentally. It held firm, yet gave an unsettling wobbly sensation. Host, rest assured, floors and walls are indestructible. The system had said nothing about the furniture. Xinjiao sat down heavily on the cardboard bed, which crumpled beneath her weight. Xinjiao watched her sister's expression carefully. Sister? She knew that look meant Xinjiao was upset. Normally, that expression meant she would get scolded for misbehaving. She wished their elder brother were there to stand up for her, but she could not think of anything she had done wrong this time. Another gust swept inside, and she shuddered. Xinjiao was too worn out to complain further. She walked over to the window and tried to reattach the loose cardboard panel. The moment she set it in place, it fell right off. System. We are going to freeze. Xinjiao stamped her foot in frustration. The system gave no reply. What about sanitation? There is no washroom. We can go 3 days without washing ourselves, but we cannot go 3 days without relieving ourselves. She tried to appeal to the system. The shelter contained nothing except simple furniture, plenty of food, and a box of tissues. One window would not stay closed. You may use the water outside, the system replied calmly. Xinjiao's face burned. She was supposed to relieve herself into the open water. What if she had to go into the water for a task later? The thought made her shudder. I refuse. I am civilized human being. Ding. New quest released. Devise a practical way to take care of personal sanitary needs within 5 hours. Reward, 10 points. You. Xinjiao grew flustered. Where could she find a container? And where would she dispose of waste afterward? They could not hold it in for 3 whole days. It would harm their bodies, and they could not possibly endure that long. She deeply regretted picking the shelter. Perhaps the burlap shelter had been decent aside from lacking food. She had brought plenty of snacks. They would not have starved. Why had she prioritized food over comfort? After a moment, the system spoke again. All items left behind inside a shelter will be automatically disposed of once you leave. Xinjiao understood instantly. She only needed to find some kind of container. She could leave it inside the shelter when they moved. She would not need to carry it or dump it in the lake. The catch was finding a container within 5 hours for the bonus reward. The only source of salvage lay underwater, at the sunken warehouse she had visited before. She remembered something tugging her leg the last time she went into the water. Had it just been her imagination caused by nerves? System, is there something in the water? She asked cautiously. Yes. Unknown creatures in the water have grown active. Given your current physical condition, going underwater is not recommended. Unknown creatures. The tug had been real. She pulled her foot back. She was terrified. 10 points were not worth going back into the water. She would pass on the reward. Relieving herself in the water was better than facing whatever lurked beneath. What exactly are those creatures? Zombies. Not ghosts. She exhaled in relief, then froze. Zombies? Those only existed in novels and movies. Had she been infected when something grabbed her leg before? She hurriedly examined her leg. No marks or wounds remained. That did nothing to calm her fear of the water. Can zombies get inside the shelter? She dreaded seeing a zombie press its face against their broken window. Zombies cannot approach shelters. Relief washed over her. System, you are a lifesaver. I am merely a system. Figuratively speaking, she waved off the correction, glancing toward the urn. Now she knew monsters existed in the water, but the shelter was safe. She started thinking of solutions. She needed to handle sanitation, and she could not go underwater. She looked toward the crumpled cardboard bed. Rain could not penetrate the shelter. Perhaps the cardboard repelled water as well. Xinjiao sat on the floor happily gnawing a chicken leg, already forgetting how upset she had been about the shelter. Xinjiao picked up a sheet of cardboard and held it out the open window. Her imagination ran wild. She pictured a zombie lunging out of the water to bite her hand, so she quickly pulled her arm back and stretched the cardboard out as far as she safely could. Raindrops beaded and rolled off without soaking through. Exactly as she hoped. Ding! Quest completed. 10 points awarded. Satisfied, Xinjiao clapped her hands. She reshaped one of the cardboard pillow boxes into a simple makeshift container and set it near the door. She only dared open the door because of the system's guarantee. Even knowing zombies could not draw near, she opened and shut the door as fast as she could. Knowledge and courage were 2 separate things. Her sore muscles ached even worse after all that effort. Xinjiao finished eating and piped up again. Sister, can we change houses? We cannot. Xinjiao stared out toward the rain. She felt a strange morbid curiosity about the outside, even if it might keep her awake at night. Why did we end up here? The little girl pouted. We can only switch shelters every 3 days. We just have to hold on for 3 days, Xinjiao consoled her. Xinjiao flopped spread-eagled across the cardboard, overwhelmed with gloom. Far away, Jiang Jingchen's group fought for their lives. They thought they had escaped the monsters and were celebrating surviving the close call. No one noticed Xiao Xian lying on the boat, begin to convulse violently. After a moment he went still. Then slowly, he climbed back to his feet. Heavy rain muffled most sounds. Before anyone could react, Xiao Xian lunged at He Zhanyuan, who sat closest to him. Aya! He Zhanyuan screamed in agony. Yining Xiao froze, paralyzed by terror. Warm blood, hotter than the cold rain, splattered across her face and clothes. Jiang Jingchen reacted quickly. He froze for a split second out of shock, then kicked Xiao Xian hard before he could bite again. The blow sent Xiao Xian stumbling toward the boat's edge. Jiang Jingchen delivered another sharp kick, and Xiao Xian tumbled into the water. Yining Xiao shook uncontrollably. She wanted to scream, but her throat tightened, trapping all sound inside. Her eyes widened in horror. Rain poured over them, washing blood from He Zhanyuan's wounds. Jiang Jingchen kept a cool head. He knelt down to check He Zhanyuan's injuries. Help me. I don't want to die. My daughter is only 2 years old. I need to get back to my wife and child. He Zhanyuan trembled, clutching at Jiang Jingchen's shirt. Tears streamed down his face. He regretted ever going on this business trip. Jiang Jingchen pulled back, his tone blunt and unsparing. I cannot guarantee you will not turn like Qi Yaoxian. Don't give up on me. I will be fine. He Yuan curled over in agony. I just want to see my family one more time. Jiang Jingchen refused to take that terrible gamble. Qi Yaoxian had turned after sustaining open wounds. The virus spread through injury. He had no way of knowing whether He Yuan would also turn. Watching the man beg desperately before him, he reached out indifferently to avoid the man's blood and lifted him off the ground. Just then, Yiningxiao darted out from hiding. What are you doing? Jiang Jingchen did not even bother to lift his eyelids, ignoring her trembling, outstretched hand. He also paid no mind to He Yuan, who struggled feebly against searing pain racking his body. He shoved the man outward without hesitation. This is murder. Stay quiet if you value your life. Jiang Jingchen pushed He Yuan into the water and finally drew a ragged breath of relief. Yiningxiao's resolve had long been hanging by a thread. Everything she had been raised to believe told her she could not stand by and watch someone die, yet she had witnessed Qi Yaoxuan's eerie, inhuman state with her own eyes. It was far too similar to the monsters depicted in movies and novels she had read. Torn between rational morality and primal fear, her mind was pulled relentlessly in two opposing directions. The moment Jiang Jingchen sent He Yuan plunging into the water, her legs gave way and she collapsed onto the ground. She had not been the one to push him, she had tried to stop it. She had done everything she possibly could. She averted her gaze as she watched He Yuan sink beneath the murky surface without a single thrash. Jiang Jingchen paid no heed to her tangled, tormented emotions. His only worry lingered on Xinjiao far away. She was traveling with her younger sister, trapped amid torrential rain and swarms of zombies. He could not begin to fathom how she was coping. When Jiang Jingchen tossed He Yuan into the water, he had spotted the milky white glaze spreading over the man's pupils. The appearance was identical to the zombies from the horror films Xinjiao loved to watch. No emotion flickered across Jiang Jingchen's face, but if Xinjiao had been present, she would have seen how utterly shattered his composure truly was beneath his cold exterior. Even with no way to confirm Xinjiao's safety, Jiang Jingchen never strayed from his original vow. He would find her, dead or alive. He would never give up. Meanwhile, the very person occupying his thoughts was gasping for air mid-set of push-ups. She needed to earn system points fast. She was done with cramped, shabby temporary lodgings. Night fell eventually. Xinjiao suddenly trotted over to Xinjiao, excitement shining in her eyes. Sister, the rain is letting up. Xinjiao was sprawled on the floor catching her breath. At those words, the ache in her arms and legs vanished instantly, and she shot abruptly to her feet, only to black out and fall right back down. 2 straight days of non-stop push-ups had drained every ounce of her stamina. Will we go find Brother Jiang once the rain stops? Xinjiao leaned beside her head, rocking back and forth expectantly. We can cross paths with him if we head out from City C. Wonderful. We're going to see Brother Jiang. The little girl scrambled to her feet, hopping around joyfully. Jiang Jingchen had told her to wait put safely, but Xinjiao now wielded an overpowering golden finger granted by her system. She had nothing left to fear. The 2 sisters huddled close for warmth through the frigid, sleepless night. When they woke the next morning, the rain had ceased entirely. With the downpour gone, the floodwaters receded at a rapid pace. Conditions could not have been more brutal for Jiang Jingchen's group. Chilled rain soaked their clothes to the bone for days on end, yet the temperature never dropped low enough to induce fatal hypothermia. Their bodies had slowly grown accustomed to the numbing dampness. Yiningxiao sat hunched at the bow of their small boat, her stiff hands straining to pull the oars through the water. Jiang Jingchen gripped a dull blade, hacking away tirelessly at zombies that kept trying to clamber aboard the vessel. Their food supplies had long run dry, leaving Jiang Jingchen with pale, ashen lips. A heavy silence hung between the 2 survivors as they drifted onward across the flooded landscape. Zombies lingered just below the boat's hull, bony hands occasionally breaking the water's surface, only to be swatted away by Jiang Jingchen time and again. There were only a handful of the undead, yet they proved relentlessly persistent. Yiningxiao caught sight of 2 familiar figures drifting beneath the water, Qi Yaoxian and He Yuan. We need to find a landing spot with minimal zombie activity before the rain clears completely. Jiang Jingchen glanced upward toward the cloudy sky, then stared back into the opaque, muddy water. There was no way to gauge where a safe refuge might lie hidden beneath the turbid surface. Worse still, His physical strength was fading rapidly, accompanied by dizzy spells and blurred vision, clear signs he had developed a fever. It was hardly unexpected after days of constant rain exposure, repeated immersion in floodwater, and unceasing combat against the undead. It was nothing short of a miracle he had managed to hold on this long. Yiningxiao scanned her bleak surroundings in blank despair, unable to pinpoint any viable safe harbor. Once the rain ended, the falling water level was only a matter of time. Neither of them had closed their eyes for a full night, and the loss of 3 companions left them drastically understaffed. To make matters worse, Yiningxiao possessed 0 combat capability whatsoever. She rowed the boat forward in dull numbness, overcome with an unshakable premonition that death awaited them out here in the floodwaters. The feeling was so overwhelming she could no longer summon the will to struggle against her fate. Jiang Jingchen's balance wavered with every passing minute, yet the thought of Shen Zhaoao anchored him firmly to his resolve to stay standing. He had to survive to reach her. She was naturally timid and fragile. She would endure unimaginable hardship without anyone there to shield and protect her. Back at the cardboard shelter, Shen Zhaoao watched the clear sky and moved to the window. She activated the mobile cabin to follow the navigational route the system had provided. She had begged the system late the previous night for this special privilege. She had no sense of direction for long-distance cross-city travel, which was the main reason she had delayed searching for her father and Jiang Jingchen for so long. Her persistent pleading had paid off. The system had displayed a full navigational map above the reward wheel. After memorizing the route overnight, she set off at first light. "Jiang Jingchen, I'm coming for you." Shen Zhaoao had slept poorly through the cold night and remained listless, curled up beside her elder sister. Shen Zhaoao draped every spare piece of dry clothing they had collected over the little girl's body. After traveling nonstop through the morning, the floodwaters had retreated drastically enough for Shen Zhaoao to spot countless zombies standing motionless on the newly exposed riverbed below. The sight was grotesque enough to send chills crawling up her spine and raise goosebumps across her entire body. As the system had promised, the flimsy cardboard cabin was impenetrable. Not a single zombie dared draw near the structure, functioning perfectly as an impenetrable safe zone. She forced herself to stare straight ahead out the window, doing her utmost to ignore the undead crowding the terrain beneath them. She halted all movement by afternoon to complete her daily quests and farm system points. She refused to assign any tasks to Shen Zhaoao. 20 system points were trivial compared to the young girl's physical health. By nightfall, the waterline had dropped so far the cardboard cabin rested fully on solid ground. Muffled, guttural growls echoed loudly from outside the thin walls. Shen Zhaoao pulled the trembling Shen Zhaoao tightly into her embrace, equally terrified herself. "Sister, what are those things out there?" "They scare me." Shen Zhaoao's small voice shook with fear. "It's all right, they can't get inside. We just have to stay within these walls." Shen Zhaoao stroked the top of her sister's head to soothe her. Terror gnawed at her own heart too, but she had a younger sibling to look after, leaving her no room to give in to fear. "I miss Mom and Dad, just a tiny little bit." The girl fought hard to hold back tears, though her wavering tone betrayed her sorrow. "Mom and Dad miss us just as much. They're watching over and protecting us from above. Be good, I'll take good care of you, I promise." "Okay." Shen Zhaoao buried her tear-streaked face into her sister's chest. "System, we no longer have water surrounding the cabin. Is the mobile function still usable?" "It remains functional, host. You must upgrade the system to unlock land-based mobility for your shelter." "How many system levels are required for land travel capability?" "System level 5, which costs 500 total points." 500 points was a steep requirement she could not avoid. Traversing zombie-infested terrain on foot with her sister would be a death sentence without a mobile safe shelter. A transportable secure cabin was the most vital survival asset in this ruined world. Even if she never reunited with Jiang Jingchen, the cabin would keep the 2 sisters alive amid the apocalypse. Ding! New quest issued. Upgrade your shelter to enable land travel. Reward: 50 system points. Time limit: 15 days. Host: do your utmost to complete the objective. 50 points for this quest alone, yet her daily routine only granted 20 points each day. She could no longer rely solely on daily tasks to accumulate the required points. On top of the 500-point system upgrade fee, she needed to replace the cardboard cabin 5 separate times within the 15-day window, costing 20 points per replacement, another 100 points total. Combined, she needed to earn 600 points in 2 weeks, averaging a minimum of 40 points per single day. Adding her past earnings, 35 points from the day before yesterday, 35 from yesterday, and 20 from today, left her with a mere 90 points in total. The cabin's movement function shut down completely once the floodwaters vanished. Xinjiao dared not peer outside, terrified of locking eyes with any wandering zombie. The torrential rain had washed away nearly all traces of the catastrophic earthquake, leaving zombies scattered across every visible stretch of land, their clothes soaked and matted. Upon closer inspection, many bore fresh wounds from being crushed or struck by falling rubble during the seismic disaster. These were ordinary civilians who had perished in the earthquake, reanimated for unknown reasons into mindless walking corpses. Cold night winds whistled through the thin cardboard walls. The two sisters huddled helplessly in the cabin's corner. Thanks to the system's unlimited supply of warm, nourishing food, they endured the harsh conditions without severe physical harm, even with the constant cold and anxiety. They drifted into a fitful sleep huddled together, drowned out by endless howling winds and the raucous snarls of the undead surrounding their shelter. Xinjiao awoke exhausted and irritable after the restless night. She resolved to purchase a far sturdier replacement cabin the next morning. This shoddy cardboard structure blocked neither wind nor sound, leaving them cold and on edge every single hour. Ding! New quest released. Travel 10 meters on foot to the designated check-in marker. Completion reward, 20 system points. Time limit, 6 hours. The quest alert jolted the half-asleep Xinjiao fully awake. Walk 10 meters outside to check in? That's practically marching straight into the zombies' jaws. Zombies are drawn to loud sounds. You may coordinate with the child to finish this task safely. 20 points would cover her daily point quota entirely, removing the need for grueling push-up workouts for the day. Yet the world outside teemed with roaming zombies. She could not fathom how to reach the marker unscathed. Xinjiao was paralyzed by dread. She had only just reassured herself that staying locked inside the cabin meant absolute safety, and now the system forced her to venture outdoors. She cursed her own overconfidence. Careless words always came back to haunt her. 10 meters was a short distance. If she gritted her teeth and sprinted fast enough, she might make it there and back quickly. Collapsed debris and rubble piles littered the area as potential hiding spots, but she had no way of knowing if a zombie lurked behind every broken wall and crumpled concrete slab. She wavered endlessly between two choices: step outside for the points and risk a brutal death, or remain hidden while her longing for Jiang Jingchen weighed heavier each passing day. He was one of her last remaining loved ones left alive in this broken world, and she refused to abandon her search for him. She knew without a doubt he would never stop searching for her, even surrounded by hordes of the undead. She also suspected his situation was far more perilous than her own. She possessed an impenetrable mobile shelter protected by the system, while he likely had no form of reliable defense whatsoever. Xinjiao's mind waged a brutal internal battle between self-preservation and loyalty to her loved one. Should she take the gamble? If she lost her life out there, who would look after her little sister? But if their positions were reversed, Jiang Jingchen would not hesitate to take that same risky step forward. If he could summon that courage, so could she. She finally resolved to accept the quest. She could not hide within the cabin walls for the rest of her life. Until rescue arrived, she had to learn to defend and fend for herself. True survival came from building personal strength to endure the apocalyptic wasteland. Before opening the cabin door, she wrapped leftover cardboard sheets around every exposed patch of her skin as crude protective gear. Fully equipped, she instructed Xinjiao to stand by the window and create noise to lure the zombies away from the cabin entrance. Keep your hands inside the cabin at all times. Just hurl the glass juice cups out the window to make noise. She took advantage of the system's infinite resource generation to let her sister throw endless glass cups outside. Sister, please don't go out there. Those monsters are terrifying, Xinjiao pleaded anxiously. Don't worry. Do you remember what I told you I am? A princess. Exactly. Brave princesses defeat ferocious dragons. Trust me to come back safely, all right? And promise never to step outside the cabin on your own. I'll return before 10 minutes pass. I promise. Don't give me any reason to worry about you. Never repeat the reckless mistake you made last time. I won't. She rambled through reassurances and warnings for her sister, calming the young girl while steadying her own frayed nerves in the process. Xinjiao nodded firmly and tossed her first glass cup out the window the second Xinjiao reached the door. Xinjiao watched a pack of zombies swarm toward the source of the crashing sound instantly. The sight made Xin Zhaohe flinch back in fright. Xin Zhaohe steeled her resolve and pushed open the cardboard cabin door without further delay. Every zombie lingering near the entrance had been drawn away by the commotion. She scanned her surroundings cautiously, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Her legs shook just as badly as her hands. She pinched her forearms sharply to snap herself out of her panic. Calm down, Xin Zhaohe. Stay composed. More glass cups shattered outside, courtesy of Xin Zhaohe forcing past her own fear to keep creating distractions. Xin Zhaohe refused to be outmatched in bravery by her little sister. She drew in a deep breath, fixed her gaze on the check-in marker 10 meters ahead, and sprinted toward it without hesitation. Ding! Quest completed successfully. 20 system points have been deposited into your account. Current total points, 110. Keep up the hard work, host. The mechanical voice echoed in her mind, and Xin Zhaohe nearly teared up in relief. She had actually pulled it off. She was far braver than she had ever believed possible. Host, watch out. The system's urgent warning rang out the same moment a zombie emerged from behind a pile of wreckage directly in her path. Xin Zhaoyao's mind went completely blank. The safety of the cabin had lulled her into a false sense of security. The open world held no such protections. Run immediately. Panic tinged the system's tone. Xin Zhaohe jolted back to her senses and sprinted back toward the cabin at full speed before the zombie could lunge. Her frantic movement drew the attention of nearby undead, yet the short 10-meter distance was more than enough for her to dash back through the cabin door. The slow-moving zombies only reached the entrance the second she bolted inside. Trapped outside the invisible barrier surrounding the shelter, they roared and slammed uselessly against the cardboard walls. Safe once more, Xin Zhaohe felt her lingering terror fade significantly. Bravery was built slowly through small victories like this. After catching her breath, she watched the zombies fruitlessly battering the cabin exterior. Xin Zhaohe rushed to her side the second she heard her sister re-enter. Sister, I'm safe now, I'm back. You did wonderfully distracting the zombies for me. Proud of her praise, the young girl broke into a wide grin until she spotted the snarling zombies pressed against the cabin walls. The smile was wiped clean off her face in an instant. Sister, the monsters are right there. They can't get inside. Watch this. Witnessing the barrier's power firsthand bolstered Xin Zhaoyao's confidence tenfold. She tore a long strip from a spare piece of cardboard and extended it cautiously through the narrow door crack, keeping her entire arm safely within the cabin walls. The zombies snapped and clawed wildly at the cardboard strip, blocked by an unseen shield that kept their hands from making any contact whatsoever. They could not touch the cardboard no matter how violently they lashed out, not due to Xin Zhaoyao's quick movements, but because the shelter's protective field extended to any objects protruding from within the safe zone. Xin Zhaohe's eyes lit up with delight watching the futile efforts of the undead. Sister, give me the cardboard stick. I want to play too. Ever since the devastating earthquake a month prior, the sisters had spent every single day fleeing for their lives. The cardboard cabin had offered their first moment of stable shelter, filled with nothing but reading material. The floodwaters had trapped them indoors during the rainstorm, and now the roaming zombies barred all outdoor activity once the water receded. The energetic young girl had not had a single chance to play freely in weeks, and tedious push-up workouts hardly counted as fun in her eyes. I'll cut you a new strip of cardboard. Remember to keep your whole hand inside the cabin at all times. Xin Zhaoyao trimmed a fresh cardboard strip from leftover materials. Cheerful at last, Xin Zhaohe teased the zombies with the cardboard stick through the door gap, alternating between that and throwing cups out the windows to agitate the surrounding undead. The zombies milled around the cabin in frantic circles, completely helpless against the two girls tormenting them from behind the impenetrable walls. They look so silly, sister. Xin Zhaohe giggled openly at the spectacle. Never forget how dangerous these creatures truly are, Xin Zhaoyao hurried to warn her. If you get scratched or bitten, you'll turn into one of these monsters just like them. Xin Zhaohe nodded obediently. She was a well-behaved child who never disobeyed her sister's rules or requests. Xin Zhaoyao still felt a twinge of anxiety. Kids at this age were notoriously mischievous and hard to discipline. They were never willing to listen to a word adults said. Noticing the cardboard panels of their hut could fend off zombies, she tore down her regrown cardboard bed again to fashion a simple set of cardboard armor for Xin Zhaohe. This way, even if the little girl accidentally stretched her hands outside, she would be shielded from zombie bites. The dismantled cardboard bed sprouted back into its original shape dutifully once more. Naya, come bite me. You can't reach me at all. You're so slow and clumsy. Shinjaoha taunted the zombies relentlessly. Enraged, the undead circled the cardboard hut nonstop, letting out hoarse howls. Even without understanding their eerie cries, Shinjarao could sense their fury and desperation. System, this hut is 100% safe, right? Provoking them won't raise their aggression levels enough for them to break inside, will it? Shinjarao asked the system anxiously, her heart in her throat. The system stayed silent for a long moment, as if exasperated, before responding. No. The hut will fully protect you and the child under all circumstances. Its voice was as gentle as ever. Shinjarao's taut nerves instantly relaxed. With her worries put to rest, she joined her little sister in teasing the zombies. The scene turned strangely comical. Hordes of zombies tramped in circles around the flimsy cardboard shelter, roaring loudly and drawing even more of their kind to the spot. Yet no matter how many gathered, none could breach the invisible barrier wrapping the hut. In stark contrast to the zombies' frenzied rage, the two sisters were having the time of their lives. Look at that zombie over there, sister. It's so dumb. I stuck my stick right up to its face and it didn't even try to snap at it. It isn't some hound that reacts to every motion. Eventually, the system stepped in to cut their fun short, reminding the pair to complete their daily quests. Reluctantly, they left the seething zombies be. Finishing a single daily quest took them an awfully long time. Even after several days of doing this routine, Shinjarao still struggled to get accustomed to it. Still, she pushed through for the 20 quest points as a reward. Shinjaoha received 5 points per completed task. Being younger, she adapted far quicker, and her movements grew more standard with every attempt. Whenever Shinjarao praised her, the little girl would puff out her chest proudly and crank out 5 extra repetitions on the spot. Jiang Jingshan's situation was a far cry from the sisters' easygoing days. Once the rain cleared up, the troubles he'd resolved were quickly replaced with brand new dangers. As soon as the storm passed, Jiang Jingshan rowed his boat without pause toward a stretch of dense green woodland. This area had once been a forest, with tall trees still standing firm amid the disaster, perfect for a quick escape if trouble arose. Woodlands were also usually secluded, meaning zombie activity ought to be minimal here. Jiang Jingshan was sharp-witted. From the wounds and decay on the zombies' bodies, he could tell these creatures were all residents killed in the massive earthquake, though he could not fathom what had turned them into the walking dead. As the floodwaters gradually receded along their route, the submerged landscape came into clearer view. The sight of countless zombies trapped beneath the water made even Jiang Jingshan's scalp prickle with dread. For Yuningxiao, it was far worse. She had completely crumpled into despair. How are we supposed to survive this? Everywhere we look, there are zombies. Jiang Jingshan ignored her hysterical wailing and quickened his rowing pace. He needed to find solid, safe ground before the flood drained away entirely, and that distant woodland was their only viable lifeline. Yuningxiao caught sight of the green treeline ahead and spoke up, utterly dependent on Jiang Jingshan now. What do we do once we get there? There's a chance to survive in those woods up ahead. You're welcome to follow me, but I will not take responsibility for your safety. Jiang Jingshan's tone was calm yet brutally candid. He could not guarantee his own survival, let alone safeguard another person. Shinjarao was the only person he would lay down his life for. They had grouped up voluntarily from the start, no one had forced the alliance. Back then, hardships existed, but no one faced mortal peril, not until the zombie outbreak unfolded straight out of a horror movie. 3 of their original companions had already perished, and judging by her choices and behavior, Jiang Jingshan suspected he would not be able to save Yuningxiao either. He could barely keep himself alive as things stood. A heavy internal conflict gnawed at him. Abandoning her would seal her grim fate, yet protecting her would put his own life at risk. He was determined to reunite with Shinjarao, and that meant he had no choice but to prioritize himself now. Yuningxiao froze. When the words sank in, her emotions flared into outrage. You can't leave me behind. What right do you have to refuse keeping me safe? I bear no obligation to protect you. Jiang Jingshan's voice remained cold and emotionless. I'll follow you. The harsh reply jolted her back to reality. She stared at his rigid back, silently plotting. If her life was ever on the line, she would not hesitate to push him into harm's way to buy herself a chance to run. Stories and films always depicted zombies tracking prey by sound, and if these monsters worked the same way, he would make an ideal distraction. Jiang Jingshan was oblivious to her malicious schemes, or even if he had known, he would not have cared. He pulled the last energy chocolate from his coat pocket and swallowed it blankly. He had given her a 50-50 shot at survival. The rest was entirely up to her own choices. When the water level dropped significantly, their rickety boat finally drifted alongside a thick tree trunk. Jiang Jingchen tossed down his oar, gripped a blunt blade at his side, and leapt without hesitation to grab hold of the tree. He refused to set foot on the ground before confirming it was secure. Yining Xiao stared in shock. Hey, at least give me a hand up. Jiang Jingchen paid no mind to her shouts, leaning down cautiously to survey the terrain below. The earthquake had toppled many trees, but plenty still stood tall. Standing water lingered across the ground and drained slowly, with no buildings visible for miles on end. Few people had frequented this remote woodland, so the zombie population should be sparse, likely only a handful of hikers or campers who had been caught in the disaster. Still, he had to watch out for wild animals, and whether those beasts had also been infected and mutated into contagious carriers like the human zombies. Yining Xiao ground her teeth in frustration, forcing herself to endure for the sake of survival. Her limbs felt heavy and drained, leaving her physically unable to climb up the tree on her own. She watched him scan the surroundings and resolved to wait for him to climb back down to the ground. Once the water lowered further, she could simply wade off the boat and follow on foot to conserve what little strength she had left. From his vantage point in the tree, Jiang Jingchen scanned the surrounding landscape and mapped out a safe travel route. He climbed down from the tree before the water fully receded, prompting Yining Xiao to panic. Wait for me, will you? I told you to keep up on your own. Jiang Jingchen walked onward without a backward glance. This was a fight for survival, not a casual hike for leisure. Fuming with anger, Yining Xiao dared not be left stranded and clambered off the boat at once. As she had feared, her legs buckled the second she stepped into the water, sending her sprawling beneath the surface and forcing her to gulp down mouthfuls of filthy floodwater. When she struggled back to her feet, she spotted Jiang Jingchen standing motionless ahead. Hope flickered in her chest that he had softened and decided to help her until she laid eyes on what stood in his path. Her knees gave way instantly, dropping her back into the water with a loud splash. The commotion of her falls drew the attention of a large creature ahead. Jiang Jingchen ducked swiftly behind the trunk of a massive ancient tree to hide. A tiger had emerged from beneath a pile of fallen timber, its body clearly twisted and mutated by the infection. Its eyes glinted with unnatural ferocity, marking it far more dangerous than an ordinary wild tiger. Even a healthy tiger would be a deadly opponent without proper weapons, so Jiang Jingchen knew he had no choice but to steer clear of this mutated beast. It appeared disoriented and sluggish after just crawling out of the rubble. Otherwise, it would have charged at her loud disturbances long ago. Jiang Jingchen could only pray it had lost its sense of smell just like the human zombies, otherwise his hiding spot would be compromised. He retreated slowly and silently behind the tree trunk. The tiger's full attention locked onto Yining Xiao. Yining Xiao screamed Jiang Jingchen's name repeatedly in a desperate plea for rescue. Back with the sisters, far removed from such mortal peril, Shinjarao finished her set of push-ups and daydreamed eagerly about their new lodging. They were scheduled to pick a new shelter the very next day. She currently held 113 system points and planned to spend 20 points to unlock 2 location clues. She refused to believe 2 hints would lead her to another subpar living space. New house, here I come. Ding. Host has successfully redeemed 2 shelter clues. Seed Shelter comes furnished with a comfortable large bed. Seed Shelter provides fresh, hot, appetizing meals. Perfect. With these 2 perks confirmed, she settled on the Seed Shelter without a second thought. System, I choose the Seed Shelter. Ding. Seed Shelter delivered. You may lead the child into your new residence now. Shinjara was about to head out when she spotted the mob of zombies lingering outside, still agitated from their earlier teasing. System, will we be safe leaving the current hut right now? You are granted invulnerability during the shelter transition process. No danger will befall you. With all worries cast aside, she took her sister's hand, clutched the urn securely, and sprinted toward the seed shelter that materialized out of thin air nearby. The 2 shelters stood only a short distance apart. The moment Shinjarao stepped onto the front steps of the seed shelter, the old cardboard hut vanished completely. She glanced back to watch the zombies lunge toward the empty spot where the hut had stood, colliding with nothing but thin air. System, I have a question. Will these previously generated shelters reappear later? That is correct. Wow, that's fantastic. I'll steer clear of cardboard huts from now on and save my points. Wish you the best of luck, host. The system paused briefly before responding. Shinjaro paid no heed to the odd tone in its reply and hurried inside to explore her new home, only to let out a shrill cry of dismay. System, what is going on here? True to the clues, a warm, cozy king-sized bed sat in the room alongside steaming, mouth-watering dishes. Unfortunately, every other surface in the shelter was covered in raw dirt, coating every corner in grime. I haven't had a proper wash in 3 full days, do you understand? Shinjaro clutched her head in despair. How did she keep picking shabby shelters even with guide clues? Was she just perpetually unlucky? Still, this dwelling was an upgrade compared to the cardboard hut. She finally had a proper soft bed to sleep on, and a compact portable toilet had been installed in one corner. She forced herself to look on the bright side to calm her frustration. It seemed every shelter after their very first clean, comfortable abode had been shoddy in one way or another. Shinjauha adapted far better to the messy surroundings. After 3 nights sleeping on rigid cardboard, she spotted the plush bed the instant she walked in, and threw herself onto it joyfully like a swallow returning to its nest. A real bed. Look, sister, a big soft bed. We get to sleep on a bed at last. Her voice brimmed with pure delight. Shinjaro was too worn out to complain further. Better dirty lodging than the cardboard hut, she told herself repeatedly, as she inspected the small room top to bottom. The portable toilet occupied a tiny partition to the left of the window, while the prepared food sat on a rough dirt-built table beside the bed. Tonight's meal included cola chicken wings, braised pork ribs, seafood congee, fruit juice, and unlimited paper tissues. The food itself was excellent, except neither sister cared for fatty braised pork meat. System, is there any way to swap out the food options? Upgrade the system level, and your shelter will upgrade alongside it. Unlocking customizable meal selections for food supply shelters. I didn't know that was possible. Why didn't you mention this sooner? You never asked, host. What system level do I need to reach to pick my own meals? Level 60. That's incredibly high. Affirmative. Shinjaro rested her chin in her hand, deep in thought. If meals and shelter mobility could both be upgraded with system levels, what other upgrades waited further down the line? System, list out all benefits unlocked with each level milestone for me. Level 1. Unlocks the basic right to select different shelters. Level 5. Grants permanent free movement for your shelter. Wait a second, we could move the shelter across water before this, how come? Shinjaro cut the system off mid-explanation. Aquatic movement was a limited bonus from your new player welcome package, only partial shelter mobility. Got it, carry on. She nudged the overexcited Shinjauha away from her side. Go play with the dirt over there for a minute, hehe. Shinjauha had been waiting for exactly that permission. Growing bored of the bed, she had already noticed the thick layer of dirt blanketing the floor, and saw it as a perfect playground for a child. With her sister's approval, she rolled around freely in the mounds of earth without restraint. Shinjaro was too focused on the system's breakdown of perks to supervise her little sister. The system continued its briefing. Level 10 unlocks expanded shelter pool with a chance to obtain large-scale safe zones during draws. Level 20 activates automatic pathfinding navigation. Level 30 opens the official system points mall. Level 40 adds an in-shelter snack pantry with permanent stock. Shinjaro's eyes lit up instantly at the level 40 reward, endless snacks within the safety of her home. Level 50 guarantees permanent access to large, fortified safe zone shelters. Level 60 enables full customization of all meals provided by food-type shelters. All perks beyond level 60 are classified. Details will be revealed upon leveling up. Motivation surged through Shinjaro. She was determined to grind for more points to level up her system. Unlock spacious safe housing, stock up on endless snacks, and pick every meal to her own taste. After spending 20 points on clues, her point balance dropped back down to 110, with 14 days remaining. Until the shelter upgrade quest concluded, she needed to work harder to earn more rewards. Before she could plan her next steps, she caught sight of her little sister covered head to toe in mud. Who are you? She recognized the child perfectly well, yet the mud-caked face prompted the instinctive question anyway. It's me, hehe. Shinjauha swiped at her muddy cheeks with equally filthy palms. Shinjauha, we have 0 clean water available for bathing right now. Shinjauha froze, confused by the news. No water at all? Shinjaro resigned herself to grabbing a stack of tissues. Wipe your face clean immediately. All supplies inside the shelter regenerate infinitely. Used tissues replenish themselves the second they were discarded. so she did not hold back on using them liberally. System quests were released at irregular intervals alongside daily missions. Besides finishing routine tasks, Shinjarao also took on these sporadic assignments of varying difficulty. She had picked up on a consistent rule. However, every object and material produced within the shelter was completely zombie-proof, which made venturing outside for quest objectives far less dangerous. Most advanced quests required her to leave the safety of the hut. Only a day prior she had scolded Shinjauha for rolling in the dirt, yet today she plastered her own body with the shelter's native mud as well. She had accepted a high-reward quest worth 30 points today: retrieve clean clothing supplies from a warehouse 1 kilometer away. She also planned to pick up feminine hygiene goods for her own personal needs, even though they were not required quest items. Since waking that morning, she had experienced dull tenderness in her chest and persistent lower back soreness. Clear signs her monthly cycle was approaching, and the shelter provided no corresponding supplies. She had checked with the system and learned these amenities were included in higher-tier shelter variants. Their very first temporary shelter had stocked such products, though she had not needed them at the time, and regretted failing to take spare packs before relocating. The system had already clarified no items could be carried over when switching between shelters. All her remorse faded away completely. She coated every inch of her body in mud, not leaving even a single strand of hair untouched. Dirty as she was, her life and system points mattered far more. Before heading out, she once again warned Shinjauha not to step outside on her own. The destination she was heading to was rather far, and Shinjarao could not help feeling anxious. "Can I go with you, sister? I'll cover myself in mud too, just like you." Shinjauha's eyes welled up with tears. The chance to slather herself in mud without getting scolded was simply too tempting for the little girl. Shinjarao saw right through her childish scheme. "You can roll around in the mud pit all you want while I'm gone, but you are strictly forbidden from leaving this hut before I return. You know I can keep tabs on you through my system. Sneak outside, and you'll get a proper beating. I'm not like Mom, who only threatens punishment and never brings herself to lay a hand on you. When I discipline you, I won't hold back at all. Do you understand?" Shinjarao planted her hands on her hips and issued the warning to the child. The youngster instantly recalled the times she had misbehaved and been chased and spanked by her elder sister. She nodded frantically in fright. "I get it. I won't go out for anything, not even if I'm forced to. Good girl. I'm leaving now." "Okay." Before setting off, Shinjarao double-checked herself to make sure her whole body was fully covered in mud. Only then did she walk out of the small hut with peace of mind. Right after stepping outdoors, she tied the hut's door shut tightly with a length of rope from the outside. She could not take the risk that the disobedient little girl might run out while she was away. Standing outside, she watched the zombies disperse, wandering aimlessly amid the rubble. Shinjarao cautiously stepped off the porch. None of the zombies paid her any mind. Still, she needed to verify if the mud actually worked as a disguise. She would get no proof if the zombies ignored her entirely. Picking up a stone from the ground, she hurled it toward the nearest zombie. The throw went wide off the mark. The stone rolled to a halt right at the zombie's feet. The creature let out a raucous snarl and spun around. It saw a dark mud-caked figure waving directly at it, with a strip of gleaming white teeth peeking out from the black mud mask. The zombie merely glanced for a second before losing all interest. A flicker of nervousness stirred within Shinjarao. It was only natural to be scared. Her very life hung in the balance here. When that zombie failed to react, she grabbed more pebbles and threw them one after another. It took several attempts before she finally hit another zombie. She jumped about and waved her arms wildly to draw its attention. Yet every zombie reacted the exact same way, a quick glance, then total indifference. Shinjarao took a tentative first step backward toward the hut, ready to sprint back at any second. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps. The zombies remained motionless and unresponsive. A weight lifted off Shinjarao's chest. The mud was actually masking her presence from the undead. Far more effective than the cardboard she had used previously. She walked a few more meters forward until she stood directly in front of one zombie. Keeping a careful safe distance, close enough to test the mud's effect, but far enough that the creature could never catch up to her if it gave chase. This time she lobbed a large rock straight at the zombie a few meters away, knocking it flat onto the ground. The commotion drew the attention of every nearby zombie. Shinjarao immediately turned and sprinted toward the hut, only to slow her pace after a few strides. All the zombies had simply turned their heads to look, not moving an inch. The fallen zombie dragged itself back upright and did nothing else. That was all. Shinjarao's eyes widened in shock. Was she practically invincible with this mud covering? She carried out bold tests on several more zombies, and every single one ignored her completely, treating her as one of their own kind. Overjoyed, Shinjarao mingled among the horde of zombies and headed straight for her marked destination. In stark contrast to Shinjarao's safe, relaxed trek, Jiang Jingchen had no system cheats to rely on. His body was covered in wounds, his clothes caked in grime, making him look no different from a wandering vagrant. Still, he was alive. Shortly after they had roused the mutated zombie tiger, Yi Ningxiu had been torn apart by the beast. This feral tiger was nothing like ordinary zombies. It had mauled Yi Ningxiu's body beyond recognition. The horrific sight broke Jiang Jingchen's heart, yet he was far too powerless to intervene. If it had been a regular zombie, he might have rushed in to save her. But facing a deadly mutated tiger left him utterly helpless. The traumatic scene plagued his mind, and he began to wonder if he would ever reunite with Shinjaro again. Worst of all, he feared she might have perished in this cruel world too. Pulling himself together, he scolded himself silently. Stay sane. Jarao is sharp and resourceful. She will find a way to survive. The floodwaters had receded significantly, but traveling through the dense forest remained arduous. The only small mercy was the wild edible fruits growing among the trees, which kept him from starving to this point. Two people from separate cities, both covered head to toe in mud, yet living vastly different realities. One skipped freely through the ruins with her ponytail swaying leisurely, protected from danger. The other trudged forward with heavy footsteps, constantly scanning his surroundings for hidden threats. Shinjarao quickly reached the coordinates marked by her system. With the flood gone, the damaged warehouse was accessible without trouble. Much of the structure had collapsed in the earthquake. She located a stockpile of sanitary pads, but all of them had been soaked by floodwater and rendered unusable. Her good mood instantly soured. With no sanitary supplies available, she scanned the piles of discarded clothing and resolved to pad herself with scrap fabric temporarily. Her discomfort would only kick in 2 or 3 days at the earliest, and there might be usable pads waiting in their next safe house. This thought cheered her up once more. Humming a quiet tune, she found an abandoned shopping cart and piled all her needed supplies inside. Now that the flood had drained and the ground was passable, the cart let her haul far more provisions. Especially snacks. Her and her sister's stock of treats had long run dry. She pushed the trolley casually through the ruined warehouse, browsing the shelves just as she would have in a supermarket before the apocalypse. Tossing any useful goods she fancied into the cart. A handful of leftover zombies lingered inside the collapsed building, victims trapped during the earthquake. They paid her no heed as they shuffled back and forth mindlessly. Aside from their ashen gray skin against her mud-blackened figure, the scene almost resembled a normal pre-disaster grocery store. Tragically, their fates were irredeemably lost. She only gathered essential supplies without being overly greedy, then pushed the loaded cart back toward their hut. Navigating the rocky rubble was tough going for the trolley, yet it was far easier than carrying all the supplies by hand. She made it back to the small shelter safely. Ding! Quest completed. 30 system points awarded. Current total points, 190. Keep up the good work, host. Shinjaha had been waiting by the door the moment she heard footsteps approach. When Shinjarao pushed the door open, she spotted the little girl, barely smudged with mud, her round dark eyes lighting up with pure delight. Puffing out her chest proudly, Shinjarao revealed the shopping cart behind her. Ta-da! Look what Big Sister brought home for you. Before the child could voice her excited cheers, she threw her arms around Shinjarao in a soft, warm hug. Shinjarao froze for a moment, then rested her palm on the girl's head and ruffled her hair gently. Go see all the goodies I got you. Okay. Shinjaha darted over, eyes sparkling brightly as she sorted through the cart's contents. Shinjarao had picked up plenty of spare clothes alongside a large assortment of snacks. After we finish dinner and finish our daily physical training, we can head back here, and you can pick out whatever you like for yourself. Shinjaha paused mid-rummaging, then let out a loud, satisfied hum. It did not take long for Shinjarao to regret that promise. The pair set off for the warehouse in high spirits, but upon arriving, Shinjarao wanted nothing more than to drag her sister straight home. Put that down. You already grabbed 5 identical packs of this candy. Shinjaha, can you pick something else? We only get to come out like this once in a while. Shinjaha clung tightly to a bag of poorly flavored candy printed with cartoon characters she had loved before the end of the world, refusing to let go. It looks pretty. You already have way too many of these. You said I could pick anything I wanted. The little girl lifted her mud-streaked face, stubbornness clear even beneath the layer of dark dirt. Then you're pushing your own cart back. Shinjaro fetched a smaller child-sized shopping cart and rolled it toward her sister. I will, no problem. The girl's face lit up instantly. She had always loved pushing these small carts in supermarkets before the disaster. Now she had free rein to pick her own items and steer the trolley herself. Her cart was soon piled high with fancy, impractical trinkets with no survival value whatsoever. Shinjaro, by contrast, had only selected a minimal amount of necessities. Even after more than a week of consistent intense physical training, her arms and legs still grew weak after exertion, an uncontrollable physical reaction. To stay safe, she kept her haul small and manageable. When it was time to leave, Shinjaha quickly learned how difficult the journey back really was. Sister, I can't push the cart anymore. Struggling over another stretch of jagged rubble, the child begged for help. Shinjaro halted where she stood, folding her arms across her chest without an ounce of sympathy. You agreed you'd push it yourself. Keep going. Shinjaha pouted angrily. The path is too bumpy. It's too heavy for me. I warned you the terrain would be rough and told you to only pick practical supplies, but you insisted on hoarding all these useless toys. But they're pretty. I haven't had any toys in ages, and you said I could choose whatever I wanted. You let greed get the better of you. You only needed a few items, but you ignored all sense the second we walked in here and grabbed everything you fancied. I'm not helping you. Push it on your own. Mean Shinjaro. I'll do it myself. The frustrated girl stumbled over her words in upset. She fell silent for the rest of the walk, bending down to retrieve toys that tumbled off the cart before resuming her haul. Shinjaro walked beside her, pausing each time her sister chased after fallen items and waiting patiently for her to catch up. An awkward, quiet tension hung between the two sisters the entire way home. They did not return to the hut until nightfall, neither speaking a single word to each other. Shinjaro fixed herself dinner without calling her sister over, and Shinjaha ignored her elder sister entirely. Shinjaha grabbed chopsticks to serve herself food independently, refusing to go hungry out of petty anger. Once she finished eating, Shinjaro immediately started her daily set of push-ups. She needed to finish 50 reps before midnight to check off her daily system task. She had earned 50 points the previous day and another 50 today, leaving her feeling quite pleased with her progress. The extra points brought her closer to purchasing critical clue information from the system shop. After finishing her meal, Shinjaha silently knocked out 5 push-ups on her own. This prompted 5 additional points to register in Shinjaro's system panel. She paused her workout to glance at the little troublemaker now playing happily with the toys she had hauled all the way back. She had excused the girl from training the past 2 days after noticing early cold symptoms back when they were staying in the cardboard shelter. Her voluntary exercise was clearly an unspoken peace offering. With a quiet huff, Shinjaro decided to let the incident slide. Her sister had been brave and steady during their trip to the warehouse. Though clearly frightened of the zombies, she had not panicked or screamed once. She had stubbornly hauled her own cart all the way home with her precious toys. Once she finished her push-up set, Shinjaro took the initiative to speak to her sister, melting the cold air between them. The system deposited the latest batch of points into her account, raising her total balance from 190 to 215 points. In only a matter of days, she had accumulated a sizable amount of system currency. A dedicated stockpile of snacks felt well within reach now. Reconciled once more, the two sisters sat together to sort through Shinjaha's new toys, a beautiful Barbie doll and a full miniature kitchen playset. This finally chased away the endless boredom of their isolated shelter life. Sister, when are we going to find Brother Jian? Shinjaha had never forgotten Jiang Jingchen, who had always been extremely kind to her. Once I save up enough system points. Will Brother Jiang leave us just like Mom and Dad did, going far away and never coming back? The child could not fully comprehend the concept of death, yet she had picked up fragmented pieces of the harsh reality of their world. She understood how dangerous the apocalypse was, that her and her sister possessed a helpful system. She knew that completing assigned tasks rewarded them with points to exchange for vital supplies. She equated going far away with permanent separation, unable to grasp the permanent finality of death itself.